YouTube, I'm going to be answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. If you guys would like your own natal chart reading, synastry reading, progress natal chart reading, mini natal chart reading, if you guys would like business guidance, okay, whether you want a one-on-one consultation or joining the actual program, the information for all of that is going to be in the description box below. You guys can go on my website, either under the readings tab or under the business guidance tab, and we can go from there. Hey everyone, how are you guys doing? I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. Hey Esperanza, how are you doing? What is new? Oh my gosh, Fairy Goddess, hey, what is new? How is everything? From what I remember, you were doing an MBA program. How's that going? Are you still doing it? Hey Desia, hey Christopher. I'm not sure if you like Chris or Christopher. Oh, good. I'm glad you guys are all here. Hey, Katie. Hey, Concerned. Yes, I came on a little bit earlier today. You said, how am I feeling with all of the Aries energy right now? How am I feeling with all of the Aries energy? Honestly, I'm just glad that the winter energy is done and that we're in the spring. That's kind of where I'm at with that. Hey, Indigenous being. Okay, good. You like Christopher. Yeah, usually people have their full name. I feel like they like the full name better than the actual nickname itself, because otherwise they'd have the nickname on there, right? We have Amin. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. How are you doing? Hey, Desia. You said you graduated last year, you moved back in with your parents, you're feeling like you're getting your happy back. Oh, that's awesome. Hey, Mary, yes, I'm here a little bit early, so maybe I can catch some people that aren't usually here. Sometimes I switch it up. I'm gonna get to your guys' questions in just a second. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. I will be going in order, so I'm just gonna go back up to the top and see what you guys were saying up there. Thanks so much for the likes, you guys. You guys are awesome. What is new with you guys? How are you guys feeling with all the Aries energy right now? How is it going for you guys? Let me know. We had the eclipse. What else? We had Neptune switch signs too. And we're gonna soon have Saturn switching signs. So a lot of changes are coming and awaiting. Okay, Scorpio sun, moon, and Mercury, October 27th. Hey, I don't actually meet a lot of October Scorpios. I'm trying to think, in real life that is. I don't really meet a lot of October Scorpios. I mainly meet the November Scorpios. And same thing for October Libras. Recently I started meeting more October Libras, but usually it's been the September Libras. North Node conjunct Jupiter in the 5th house in Aries. Hey, oh, you're probably enjoying the Aries energy right now. You said, what do I see as a qualitative difference between Saturn effect in your chart and intercepted signs? Do you have Saturn intercepted in your natal chart? Let me know. You said, how will Neptune moving into your Aries 11th house with your moon? Yes, there's definitely going to be illusions around your emotions. Oh my gosh, hey Laura, hi from Bucharest, Romania. How's it going over there? What time is it there? Do you guys switch the clocks over there in Romania? I'm curious to know. You said you feel anxious and a little bit agitated, feeling like you should rush the things. Definitely don't rush anything ever. I mean, if you don't need to, especially not right now. We also have the retrograde. It's definitely a little bit slower. I see the anxious energy. You're kind of like also energetically, just like from what I tap into within the collective, when I tap into the energy, feels kind of like unsettled, the vibes, you know, because the retrograde is kind of pulling people back. So even though it's Aries is fire, starting things, all these things, it's a retrograde, right? Mercury retrograde. So it's kind of keeping people like on a pause energetically. Hey Nate, how are you doing? How are you guys doing? Yes, Concerned. Okay, October is Scorpio. Hey. Okay, I'm gonna go back up and I'm gonna get to your guys' questions at the bottom. Yes, you guys, if you're just joining the live, feel free to comment below. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts, and anything else that you guys wanna talk about. Feel free to comment below. I'm just adjusting this. Okay, let's see. What are you guys saying in here? How are you guys feeling with all the Aries energy? Let me know. You said, hey, what can I say about Lilith conjunct North Node in the 12th house? Your Lilith in Taurus, ascendant in Gemini. Hold on, North Node in Taurus, Lilith ascendant in Gemini. So it's an out of sign conjunction, I'm guessing, with that conjunction going on But Lilith, anytime you have Lilith aspecting the North Node, basically what that signifies is like you have to go through shadow work first to basically activate your life purpose. I hope that makes sense. So I'm curious to know what sign do you have Lilith in? Is Lilith in Gemini for you, or is it in Taurus? And then what house is it in? Is it in the 1st or is it in the 12th? Let me know. I hope you guys are doing well as well. Oh, you did switch the clocks, so it's almost midnight. Hey, Angelina. Oh my gosh, Angelina, how are you doing? What is new? What is the 411? I remember you were Scorpio, Angelina. Let me know. Are you October Scorpio or were you November Scorpio? Libra, ascendant, Neptune, opposite the ascendant. When you guys have the ascendant basically aspected by, or like the North Node aspecting the ascendant, usually you guys kind of have like a dreamy vibe. You're going to be good on a screen too, okay? So you could be interested in anything that involves like screens, whether it's like on the phone, whether it is like movies and films with the Neptune aspecting the ascendant. But the tricky part is when you have Neptune aspecting the ascendant, you never really know who you are because a lot of the time you're feeding into what people are projecting onto you, okay? So that's for Neptune aspecting the ascendant, and same thing with Sun and Neptune aspects as well. So it depends what way you look at it, because you can take advantage of it, right? In terms of people project a dream onto you, and then maybe you can capitalize on that, right? Or sometimes you can kind of get lost in their vibes, and then especially because it's the ascendant, it's sometimes the direction that you're heading in, right? So it's like you might not see that clearly because people are always projecting onto you because it's Neptune. And Neptune is generational, you guys. So it's kind of like the generational energy is being projected onto you as well. Oh yes, you're November 1st. Nice, you're November Scorpio. Welcome. Okay, I'm just going back up to see what you guys were saying up here. You said you would like to know more about Saturn moving into Aries, and for people who will have Saturn. Was there more to that, Destia? If you're in the room, let me know if there was more to that sentence. I usually don't do like transits or predictions, but what you guys can do is you can see where you guys have Aries in your chart. That's basically the area, like the house that Aries is in. That's what Saturn is basically going to be aspecting. But here's the thing too, right? Even that sometimes, if you're looking at the Placidus tropical system, sometimes you can have intercepted houses, right? So it's like you, let's say, might have Aries in your 5th house, but let's say the way the houses are divided, it might actually be aspecting your 4th house. I hope that makes sense. So you'd have to double check. So it's going to be different for everybody, but you want to see what house is Saturn going to be falling into basically. And then in that case, that's the transit that you're going to be in for this next period of time with Saturn going into Aries. Hey T, how are you doing? What's new? What's the 411? Oh my gosh, there's 2 of you guys with the November 1st birthday. You guys, I have met so many November 1st Scorpios. It's so interesting. You said for people, oh nice, you're eating a BLT, nice. Oh, thank you, MP, for the kind words. I'll get to your question in just a second. You said, oh, hey, Beatrice, what's new? How are you doing? How is everything? You said for people who will have the Saturn return, you have Saturn in the 2nd house. Okay, so when you have your Saturn return, the first one, is it the first one for you or the second one? If it's the first one, you're kind of embarking on adulthood. When you have Saturn in the 2nd, you're meant to master money in this lifetime. So either you either incarnate into having money in this lifetime or you don't have it, okay? There's really no in between. So you're basically meant to master money. So anything to do with money and finances is going to be coming up for you during your Saturn return, okay? Maybe belief systems around money, maybe you get a new job, maybe you have some sort of breakthrough around like your connection to money, okay? So it depends, right? It depends on your upbringing and like the perspective that you had on money. And because it's Saturn, it's going to usually be the father's internalized belief systems, okay? Or like belief systems that you may have internalized. I hope that makes sense, okay? With the Saturn. Give me 1 second, you guys. All right, I am back. You said life is lifing. Yes, definitely. I feel that. I know. I'm curious, where did you get your BLT from, or did you make it at home yourself? You said, what can Scorpios look out for the future? Oh, that is a very broad question. I don't do predictions, but do you have anything a little bit more specific? Like, are you wondering about a transit or just like in general you want to know? Because, you know, Scorpio is always going to be going through death and rebirth, so that's like guaranteed. There's always going to be some kind of change for Scorpios. You said North Node conjunct Jupiter in the 5th house in Aries. Is there anything you'd like to know about that? You said Neptune and Scorpio in the 11th house. What's going on with this? So Neptune and Scorpio is the generation, okay? So obviously it's going to affect you too because you're part of the subset of the generation. So this subset of your generation basically deals with anything to do with sexuality with the Neptune and Scorpio, anything to do with vulnerability, and like you don't see this area clearly, anything to do with money. It's usually other people's money as well, anything to do with the occult, all these types of things, okay? So with that subset of the generation, you guys don't see this area clearly, or you could dream about it, or you could fantasize about it, right? So in Neptune, the way that I see Neptune is like the trick is to see how can you ground Neptune into this physical plane and into this physical reality, okay? So you and the subset of your generation. So because it's generational, it's everybody. And you guys are also karmically clearing it amongst each other as well. And then also for the collective as well. So it could be things like, let's say, get rich quick schemes with Scorpio sometimes when it comes to money. Like they want to be rich, they want to have the power, they want to have the wealth, but sometimes they fall into, let's say, get rich quick schemes, multi-level marketing, all these types of things. So it could be this. I mean, amongst many other things, right? So that's the area that, you know, the subset of the generation doesn't see clearly, or you guys spend more time dreaming about it, okay? Or, you know, want to have this much money, right? So that's Neptune and Scorpio. Neptune in the 11th house is going to affect you more, okay? So with the generational planets, the house always affects you more because that's where in your life the energy is being expressed. So with Neptune in the 11th, it's like you spend a lot of time thinking and dreaming about maybe ideas and innovations. Like that's kind of an inventor energy, right? So someone who's ahead of the time, someone who is able to kind of tap into the other side when it comes to ideas and innovations and like futuristic ways of thinking and being and about the collective. It's ahead of the time, the energy. So again, you want to figure out how can you ground, right, with the Neptune. Like let's say you think of an idea or you think of an invention, how can you ground this invention down here in this earth plane into the physical reality, basically, okay? Oh my gosh, I was just thinking of Selena, Angelina. I always connect your energy to Selena. I mean, did you hear about the, like, how can I say this? The unaliver lady, I'm trying not to say names on here. But yeah, she isn't getting parole or whatever, which is so nice. Let's see, what else are you guys saying in here? You guys are funny in the chat. Oh, you bought it from a local place. You guys, the local places are always better than the like chains, I find. You said you want to know when you'll get a new job. I don't do predictions, but here's the thing. If you're putting the energy out there and you're putting out resumes, and sometimes you might have to go in and meet the people. I know everything's online now, but sometimes you might have to go in and meet the manager. Let's say it's like somewhere where you can go and meet the manager. Maybe that'll help you. You said tons of frustration right now. Is that a part of the Aries thing? Just what's the meaning of life? Even at this point in your life, you're so confused. I know. I think it's just what's happening in the world and in the energies overall, allegedly. Like, I think the collective, I feel like you're picking up also on the collective energy. Like, I feel like it's a collective energy. Like, it's very pent up, I find. People are kind of being pushed over the edge. It's kind of like a boiling pot. Or you know that expression, like the boiling frog in the pot? Like, that's kind of what's happening energetically. So I feel like, just like as I tap into the energy, because we're kind of on the brink of change, but people don't know what the change is. They don't know how to direct their energy because like we're not there yet, if that makes sense. So it's this. If you can find something like from within, and this is for everybody, like something that you love to do and you can kind of channel your energy into the thing that you love, it'll kind of distract you from like the collective energies. I hope that makes sense. You said you honestly think that they set the parole for another 5 years in order to protect her, to protect the unaliver person. I don't know too many details. Hey, Paul, how are you doing? Hey, Entel. Oh, I'm seeing your earlier message. You said her next parole hearing is in 5 years. I'm so curious to know, why do you think that they're trying to protect her? That's so interesting. I didn't hear too many details. I just saw like a quick little post that the parole got denied. You said Capricorn is more about realism. To be honest, you have a Capricorn moon, for example. Let's see. You said, what does it mean if you keep meeting a certain sun sign? Oh my gosh. It's like we're literally connected, you guys. I was just thinking about that literally the other day. That's all I'm going to say about that. You guys are going to have to read between the lines. But yes, so when you keep meeting a certain sun sign, in my opinion, okay, if we're looking at it from a general perspective, it can mean one thing, but then it's always more, what's the word? It's more accurate if you look to see what house you have that sign in, because then it's going to tell you what they're activating in your charts, basically, okay? If you look at it in terms of synastry. But if you look at it more for fun or more for general or like lighthearted energy, if you're meeting a Capricorn, well, this could signify that maybe you are, meant to work hard, or that there's something here in terms of climbing the higher echelons of society, or maybe you're meant to master discipline. This is kind of what the energy is showing you. You said you're a Gemini sun / rising, and you keep meeting Capricorn suns. You don't know how you feel about that. You have Juno and Neptune and Capricorn as well. They're probably also maybe conjuncting your Neptune. You said you think that they're trying to protect her because everyone knows that the lady served her sentence. And to be honest, I think in order to set the lady free, that would require more protection. Interesting. I need to learn more about the case. Hey, Esperanza, how are you doing? What's new? Hey, Sagittarius, Sun, Aquarius, Moon, and Taurus rising. That Taurus rising is grounding you, but the Sag, Sun, and the Aquarius Moon wants freedom. Hey, Lorraine. Hey, Fortnite, ruler or rules. How are you doing? I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. Hey, Winnie's Journal. Hi, you guys. What's new? You said, how would I describe the South Node conjunct the Midheaven in Pisces? So probably what you're doing for work is connected to a previous lifetime. And it's interesting because it's like sometimes in a chart, you're going to see that someone's life purpose can be something that they're monetizing or making money off of, right? But sometimes the life purpose and what you do for work is not the same thing, okay? Sometimes the life purpose for someone is to learn boundaries, or sometimes someone's life purpose is to stand in their power, stand in their truth, or learn about self-love. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes they're not the same. I find that because we live, at least, it depends who's tuning in, right? But at least if you live in like a Western society, you kind of want to monetize everything. So everyone a lot of the time connects their life purpose is something that they're making money off of, but you can literally fulfill your life purpose from, just talking to your neighbor. For example, let's say you have North Node in Gemini. Sometimes your life purpose is kind of creating community with the people that are around you. So when you have the South Node conjuncting the Midheaven, kind of what you're doing for work is connected to a previous lifetime. Actually, what I'm hooking into for you is I feel like the first part of your life, what you're doing for work is something that you're clearing karmically from a previous lifetime, and then you're going to switch into something else afterwards. That's just kind of what I'm tapping into. You said you break boundaries and manifest as a life path 5. Oh, that's nice. That energy to me, the life path 5 feels kind of like Sag and Leo combined. How are you guys doing? You said there's a lot of crazy fans out there. Yeah, I mean, people are sometimes like that, when they have someone that they're like really obsessed with. You said, do I know anything off the top of my head about Venus in the 6th house in Scorpio? You're probably going to be like looking for intense love experiences, but at the same time, you might be looking for projects because it's Venus in the 6th house as well. Or you might be looking for someone to heal, or your relationships, whether it's romantic or friends or platonic, basically could be healing for you. That's Scorpio in the 6th house. When you guys have Scorpio in the 6th, even if it's occupying, like let's say in your chart, like Scorpio is occupying the 6th house, to me this is like a healer energy, okay? Someone who is here to transform and transmute energy overall, and also like maybe you come up with new healing modalities, but it's usually connected to change and transformation. So having Venus in here, it's kind of like this is coming up in your relationships, whether it's romantic, platonic, all of these things. Hey, Mystic Journal. Hey, Anas, how are you doing? Oh my gosh, Sue loves astrology. Hey, how are you? What's new? What is new, you guys? You said, how would I interpret spewing up endless crystals in a dream? Oh, interesting. Do you know which crystals they were? Hey, Winnie, how are you guys doing? Let's see. Life path 6, from what I know, is like it's about family, the life path 6. But in terms of numerology, I'm very, very surface level. So that's pretty much the extent of what I know. Back in the day for life path 6, another thing that I used to know also for them, I don't know if this is confirmed now, you guys are going to have to Google it, but I used to like know back in the day, I don't know where I got this information from, but life path 6 was like about balance, or like trying to balance in this lifetime. So definitely double check that and see. I don't do any predictions, Bharat. I'm curious if you're interested in starting a new business. You have Saturn in the 5th house. I'm curious to know if there's something creative that you wanted to do, but you got restricted when you were younger. Something creative with the 5th house and the energy in there. You said you also have North Node in Taurus, 6th house, and then Lilith in Gemini in the 7th house, Pisces Sun, Scorpio Sun, and Aquarius Moon. What would you like to know about that? I'm just back up at the top, but you guys feel free to keep commenting below. I'm just going through the earlier questions that maybe I missed. Sometimes I bounce back and forth, and then I go back up, and then I come back down. Here, there, everywhere. You said, what about moon in each other's 8th house? That could be a deep connection. It could be an intimate connection, but it can also be like intense and triggering, okay, in terms of synastry. You said you're a Pisces moon, 12th house. Several people you know have Scorpio moons in the 8th house Pisces, and then you have 8th house Scorpio. That's like depth, emotional depth, especially because it's, see, this is what I mean when you guys look at 8th house synastry. You have to see if the person already has Scorpio in their chart and how far in are they in terms of the Scorpio energy. Are they developed with that energy? Because Scorpio energy will be looking for the 8th house types of synastries, or like they might not be consciously looking for it, but it will resonate and vibe with them. They're looking for that depth, okay? Whether they're going to be looking for Pluto synastry unconsciously, or whether they're going to be looking for 8th house, because that Scorpio energy is kind of like a tornado, okay? So anytime you come into contact with a Scorpio energy or like an 8th house synastry or a Pluto, you know, aspect in terms of synastry, it's like, it's time for change, essentially, okay? It's time to either get out of stagnation. It's time to, it's like a tornado. That's the way that I always psychically see it, okay? It's coming through like a tornado, then you kind of get left with the debris, okay? You're not going to be the same by the end of this, you know, energy. One time I heard somebody say that people can be like transits, and I loved that. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. People can be like transits. So it depends, right? Because it's like, sometimes people aren't aware that, you know, it's time for them to change and it's time for them to transform, and then a person comes through, you know, kind of activating that for them. Now, the thing is, it depends how evolved are the two people. Because if the other person isn't evolved and they're not willing to do the shadow work and they're not willing to, you know, look at themselves, they're going to project onto the person that is triggering them, okay? And then it might be kind of like a scapegoat type of situation. That's why 8th house synastry or Scorpio synastry or, you know, the Pluto synastry sometimes can also unfortunately lead to violence. Obviously, I'm not speaking that into existence for anybody. That's like the most extreme shadow negative, you know, expression of it, okay? But, you know, the most divine expression of it is the healing, is the depth, is the intimacy. And it's kind of like, I find with these karmic connections, you're kind of like energetically, what's the word? Like in the unit, not just like in the unit, like in the orbit of each other, I find, until it's cleared energetically is really what that is. So it depends, okay? I always say this with any type of synastry energy, especially if we're looking at Scorpio or Pluto or 8th house, it depends how evolved are the two people and are they willing to work on themselves. If you are just starting this and you see the other person is not able to take accountability, or, you know, they project on others and everybody's to blame and they're always the victim and all these things, better to not start anything, okay? That's just my own opinion. Hey, how are you guys doing? What's new? Yes, but like the most divine version is going to be like an intimate dynamic, super close. You guys just get each other. It can be super psychic as well. And like, keep in mind, Scorpio merges, right? So if the other person has like dark energy or bad energy, the Scorpio person's merging to that. So it depends. You said, does life generally ease up post-Saturn return? Why do we make such a big deal of the difficult nature instead of embracing the lessons? Exactly. That's exactly what I want to know. I literally made a post about this today. I put it on my TikTok and I put it on here too. It was under the shorts videos. And by the way, if you guys are new here, check out my TikTok, check out my Instagram, check out my threads. I go off, you guys, in the threads, okay, in terms of like the things that I think of, and I post them on there, okay? So threads is like the extension of Instagram, basically. So check it out. But yeah, that's what I'm saying, because you're always in a Saturn transit. I think people think it's a big deal because it's like you're starting adulthood and you're like embarking on this new journey. But it's like, if you have resistance to something and it's time to change, it's just harder for you. Do you know what I mean? So you might as well just like kind of jump into, you know, the water, the intensity of it all. That's the way that I see it. So that's exactly what it should be. It should be all about embracing and just like living a better life. But the thing is, I said this on my previous live too, like the one that I did last week. It's like a lot of people develop a lot of their identity through external things. So when it's time to change, or like, let's say that thing's not in their life anymore, they go through this whole like, you know, moment of just like wanting to either hold on or cling on to. So most people aren't equipped for change. So I think that's also part of the reason why a lot of people maybe fear it as well. You said you have a hard time with mutable signs. Yeah, if you're fixed or cardinal, you're going to definitely not get along with the mutables. Because the mutables are fun when they're in front of you, okay? That's the way that I see mutable energy, when they're in front of you. You know, like if you can catch them, because a lot of the time they can't really make a plan. They can't really commit to something. They're not really committal, unless it's maybe a Virgo, okay? Because Virgo to me, like even though they're mutable, they're still more fixed than the rest of the mutable energy. So it depends, okay? But if it's like a Gemini or if it's like a Sagittarius, if you can't catch them like in the moment when they're in front of you, good luck, okay? With a mutable energy. And sometimes you just have to accept people for being that way, you know? Pisces with them, it's like sometimes I find by Pisces, like in the shadow, they can very much like be bypassing energy, like spiritually bypassing. Like, oh, let's just talk about the good vibes and have a good time and like ignore the fight and ignore the darkness of the world, you know? Like sometimes I see Pisces like that. Obviously not all the time, you guys. Obviously not all the time. That's just sometimes that I see the energy that way. What else are you guys saying? Especially if you're fixed. Yeah, especially if you're a fixed energy, you're not going to get along with the mutable signs. They're just going to upset you or annoy you or trigger you. But sometimes maybe that's what's meant to happen. Sidereal astrology is the Vedic astrology. So currently the way that they have it is like all the signs are shifted up one. But if you have the same aspects in your chart, like the aspects are going to be the same. It's just the signs are shifted up one basically. And sometimes the houses too. But even in sidereal, they have whole sign, I noticed, and they also have Placidus. So it's just a different way of calculating things. Sometimes people say with sidereal that it's like the most accurate one and that this other one isn't, but it's like, this is the way that I see it, you guys, okay? If you're actually doing predictive astrology, you have to sit down and look at everything, because if you're looking at Placidus tropical, you will see, let's say right now in Placidus tropical, Neptune is going into Aries, okay? And Placidus tropical. Then when you're doing your predictions, you're gonna go back and check and see when Neptune was in Aries the last time, and then that's how, you know, if you're doing predictive astrology, you can kind of base it on that, right? To see what was going on during that period of time. But for the sidereal people, with the sidereal people, everything is shifted up one. So for them, Neptune is going into Pisces, and then when they're doing their predictions, they're looking at when Neptune was in Pisces the last time. So you're probably gonna come to similar conclusions, okay? In terms of if you're looking at the world and the energy. So, you know, it's up to you to see which one resonates more, especially if you're looking at your own natal chart. You said, tell you what Aquarius. I'm just reading what you guys are saying. You guys are so funny. Okay, you said, tell you what Aquarius, Neptune, Chiron, North Node in the A house mean. Can you tell me, is it conjunct in there? The Aquarius, Neptune, Chiron, North Node in the A house. Is it all conjunct? You said tropical is us down to earth and sidereal is our higher self. Interesting. Yeah, one time I was telling you guys too, you know, sometimes when I look at the signs, to me, I look at like the soul of the sign as like the 12th house of that sign. And that's how I've come to rationalize the sidereal and the Placidus system. So for example, you know, within Libra in the Placidus tropical, the way that I see it, okay, the 12th house of Libra is going to be Virgo. So the soul of Libra is Virgo. So that's kind of how you can apply to both of the energies, right? Most people are going to pick up on that energetically. And I don't know if this is a thing out there. That's just the way that I see it sometimes. If you're trying to learn the sign a little bit better. You said you'd finished your second Saturn return and it turned you inside out. It did work to heal and your life did a complete 180 for the better. You said, but it was hard work to get to the Dharmic phase. I'm glad that you're on the other end of it. Yes, usually the conjunction, the square, the opposition, and then the other square, you'll feel it more, but you're still always in a Saturn. You're always gonna be in a Saturn transit. So I'm glad that you kind of came out on the other side. That's good to hear. You said, what does it mean if you have Libra in your chart 8 times in Western and in Vedic, it's flipped to Leo multiple times? I'm curious to know, how did that happen? Libra to Leo? Usually it's like up 1. You said you're fire dominant. How do you appear to others? If you're fire dominant, you're probably fiery, unsettled. You want to move around, you know, passionate, excited, excitable, chatty, friendly, okay? Unless the energy gets muted in your chart, but that's fire dominant typically, okay? The fire dominant people are fiery, but they can also be angry sometimes too, fire dominant energy. So if you have a lot of fire in your chart, it's probably good to figure out like a gym routine. You said it was light blue crystals. You don't know their name. Interesting. How do you know if it's conjunct? If you go on any of the websites, it'll tell you usually, or you can see the degrees. You can look at the orbs to see how close they are to each other. You said born with Venus retrograde and Virgo in the 7th house. I don't look at anything as good or bad. I don't look at anything as good or bad. It just is what it is. You know what I mean? So I don't think that's good or bad. It's just in your chart. So it's kind of like, what are you going to do with the energy now? You know, we do progress sometimes out of the retrogrades, which is nice. We can look at the secondary progressions to see if you've progressed out of the Venus retrograde. Usually you'll see it more so for the internal placements, the progressions, like especially if it's coming out of the retrograde. But sometimes with the external ones, I've seen it, like very rarely, but I have seen it sometimes progress for people. It depends on the degrees, but you can always check to see if it progressed. But overall Venus or retrograde, okay, is like you're coming back to redo basically anything to do with like your friends, your love life, anything to do with like money, okay? It could kind of feel like an uphill battle. Like retrograde to me feels like an uphill battle. Like you have resistance to it. You don't want to do it. You've done it so many times before. You know, that's like the retrograde energy. It's like how many more times do I have to do it, okay? But there's still the desire on that soul level. Now you have Virgo and you have it in the 7th house. Venus in the 7th is always kind of looking for a partner, or they could be codependent. They're always looking for a buddy, but then you have Virgo in here. So it's like the Virgo energy could look for projects or people to fix, or you could see someone's potential. Do you know what I mean? Versus who they actually are in front of you. So that could like waste a lot of time or just like bring through a lot of grief basically, okay? You said, how would I interpret Leo intercepted in the 7th house showing up as? So you have Leo in the 7th intercepted, and then you would have Aquarius in the 1st house intercepted. Interesting. So Leo in the 7th intercepted basically is like this other layer to, you know, your relationships or to your friends, but it's like hidden, it's suppressed, you know? And a lot of the time when you have like an interception taking place, it depends, right? Because you have to work on pulling it out and bringing it to the surface, right? With the interception. Otherwise, it's suppressed within you, so it can come through at strange times. You might not know how to deal with the energy. Sometimes you can, you know, have too much of it. Sometimes you might not express it at all, and then you could explode. You know what I mean? So it's like suppressed. You have to work harder to pull the energy out. So when you have Leo in the 7th, when it comes to your relationships, you could be looking for relationships that, you know, bring you status, okay? Or someone that you look good with, or people who are good looking, or people who are maybe in the public eye, or, you know, influencers, for example, or again, someone of some sort of status, or like athletes, for example, okay? For some people, it could be models when they have Leo in the 7th house. So you could be looking for these types of relationships. Now, it depends what's going on with the rest of your natal chart, right? Because sometimes Leo in the 7th can kind of end up in superficial dynamics. But it's interesting because Leo at the same time is also looking for, you know, loyalty. That's that Leo energy. So it's interesting because it's like sometimes these people in this category that I just mentioned aren't going to necessarily be the most loyal people, right? So that could be a struggle for the Leo energy overall, especially when you have it in the 7th. Also, it could be kind of like the shadow aspect of the self. So it's like you could be attracted to these people because there could be this aspect of you that wants to be seen in this way as well. So they could be showing you this too. So it depends, okay? You said, have I seen the show about the high potential lady and that cleans the police department? What show is that? You said she solves the cases with a lot of random knowledge and intuition. And he says she's very similar to you. You can see the same energy. Interesting. I'm not sure what show that is, but thank you. You said you see Western tropical as following the energetic imprint on Earth, like the zodiac aligned with the Aries constellation approximately 2,000 years ago. You said it is the current natal imprint for Earth, which we are living in. Exactly. There's something going on with the astrological system that they manipulated. That's my opinion, allegedly. Okay. There's something that it's like energetically, it's not the original of it all. That's pretty much all I can say about that. That's kind of where I've come to with that thought. There's something going on with it's like an energetic, it's connected to like the control and all these things. Like there's something where it's like caught energetically or like frozen in time or like something that we're basically meant to break free from. That's the way that I see it. You said Aries intercepted in the 2nd. You said Saturn and Sag in the 9th. I'm just back up at the top to see what you guys were saying up here that I may have missed. You said, how will Neptune, oh, I did that one already. You said, do I have any spiritual thoughts on sleepwalking or sleep paralysis? Interesting. The sleep paralysis is really interesting to me because sometimes I wonder if it's like an entity or something that's taking place. I'm curious to know if you were to pray or like cleanse your energy before you go to sleep in the nighttime to protect your energetic field, if that would subside the sleep paralysis. I'm curious to know because there's something there where it's like you're not coming back into your body until you wake up. Like there's a delay or like there's a lag. And it's like we also get energetically siphoned, allegedly in my opinion, in the astral while we're sleeping. So regardless, before you're going to bed, if you can cleanse your energy, protect your space, like it could be different for different people. Do you know what I mean? For some people, it could be praying. For some people, it could be using like a herb to cleanse the space. For some people, it could just be the idea or like the thought they think of it, right? I had a friend who was like super into Reiki back in the day. And that friend would like Reiki the room. So that was like that friend's, you know, method of protection. You know what I mean? So different people are going to have different like methods of protection, like, you know, whatever resonates with you. But I just feel like even if you just think it in your mind, you know what I mean? You're kind of pulling the intention in so you can be protected before you go to bed. Now, the sleepwalking is interesting to me. I've never thought about that as to like what that could be or why that is or like the spiritual significance. Let me screenshot and I'll focus on the energy and see what comes through, because sometimes I have to like think about it for a while and then the information comes through. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. You said, how would I feel about how deterministic Vedic astrology is? It can be very negative and straightforward in your experience so far reading about it. Let me know a little bit more information about what you would like to know about that. I'm still back up at the top here, just seeing what you guys were saying earlier. Pisces, 8th house sun, Scorpio north node, interesting times and visions. Yeah, you're basically carrying over a lot of psychic abilities from a previous lifetime. Probably you weren't able to express in a previous lifetime. What does it mean to have Sun square Uranus? You're basically a rebel, okay? With the Sun square Uranus, you don't fit in, you don't fit with the status quo, you don't want to fit with the status quo, you're detached, you're trying to do your own thing. With the Sun square Uranus, like this is a trendsetter energy. This is someone who is here to kind of pave their own way, do their own thing. When you guys have Uranus aspects in your natal chart, okay? Like Uranus aspects, or like let's say you have strong Aquarius or like strong Uranus influence overall, or even 11th house, usually what this signifies is like in a previous lifetime, you weren't able to fully express the self, okay? And when I say Uranus aspects, I mean like Uranus aspecting your personal placements, okay? It's like you weren't able to fully express the self. So it's like you come through in this lifetime with this strong need and urge and like desire to be able to fully express the self, okay? Be your own person. That's why it's connected to individualism and, you know, doing your own thing. And sometimes, you know, they're considered detached and all these things, but it's like they weren't able to do that in a previous lifetime, okay? So just like living in your truth is probably gonna be beneficial. What else are you guys saying down here? Back at the bottom. You said, let's see. Hey, Daniel, how are you doing? What's new? Hey, Asher. Hey, Sheree. You said what to look for in compatibility. You said what to look for in compatibility for long-term relationships. Okay. So you guys want to look for Saturn aspects, okay? That's going to be a longer term relationship. You want to look for maybe, depends what you're looking for. That's what I'm going to say. Because what I've noticed with families a lot of the time, or again, relationships, longer term relationships, or, you know, anything where people are kind of like, again, something that's a little bit more intimate, you'll see a lot of the time they either have 8th house, 4th house, or 12th house, okay, synastry going on in their charts. But see, it depends. Right? It depends what you're looking for in a relationship, because it's like, let's say you're in the more lighthearted energies. Let's say you're like Gemini or Leo or even like Taurus and Aries, right? And you don't necessarily have 12th house in your chart or like Neptune aspects. You having a 12th house relationship could feel a little bit intense, okay? And it might not be something that is ideal for you. But let's say you're a 12th house person, okay, or you have Neptune or strong Neptune in your chart, you could be looking unconsciously for these 12th house relationships, okay? But I've seen this a lot of the time. I've seen a lot of 8th house, let's say in families or like longer term relationships, because again, think about it this way, okay? Anytime you're in these units, it's basically when you're, again, you know, getting to the truth of the, you know, the truth of the truth of the self, right? Like the true nature is really, really what that is. So it's like, and especially because 8th house is so karmic, you'll see this a lot of the time, like, again, you know, you feel comfortable. That's kind of like the vibe. It's like you feel comfortable to kind of purge these energies out, basically. And again, if you're living with someone or you're under the same roof or whatever, you have a family, that's where you'll see a lot of that come out to the surface, okay? So it depends. If you're an 8th house person, you could be looking for these. 4th house, a lot of the time, the people will feel like family to you, and even 7th house sometimes. Like 7th house will be a little bit lighter compared to all these energies. But for long-term compatibility, definitely, I would suggest Saturn. Things to stay away from, I would say stay away from Uranus for long-term, okay? Because Uranus is usually in and out, and it's usually fun and exciting unless you're able to keep it fun and exciting, okay? You know, Uranus aspects. Neptune, I would try to stay away from that sometimes. Even, it depends. Again, if you're not a Neptunian person, and again, let's say there's Neptune taking place, sometimes there's a lot of idealizing, feeling disappointed, you know, that whole kind of like toxic experience if the other person is in their shadow or if you're in your shadow as well, kind of like, again, seeing the potential and all these things. So the Neptune energy can be very deceptive, right? Sometimes in a relationship. And then again, Pluto can also be intense, right? It can also be a lot of change and transformation and all these things. So it depends, right? It depends how involved are the two people. But if you want to keep it safe, I would say, and like not as intense and deep, probably maybe 7th house synastry, let's say, and even, let's say, Saturn aspects for long-term relationships, okay? But you will need something in there. Again, if you want it to be something that's a little bit more lighthearted, maybe having moon aspects, right? Or like Venus aspects as well. Let's say you guys have Venus synastry, for example, or let's say you have moon, like that's going to keep it a little bit more, let's say, lighthearted, right? So it depends what you're looking for ultimately at the end of the day. Let's see, you said you have Jupiter in the A house in Capricorn. Is it belittled? What do you mean by belittled? For Gemini ascendant. What does it mean for career and finance? For career and finance, I'd have to look at more things in your chart. I'd have to look at your 10th house. I'd have to look at your 2nd house. I'd have to look at your 10th house ruler. I have to look at all the energies in your chart. Do you have a lot of, you know, let's say a stellium going on? So for career, it's not as simple as just like, you know, it's not that straightforward. But yes, I'm curious to know. Let me know if you're still in the room. You said, how about moon exact degree conjunct the other person's moon in the 7th? That's perfect. Oh, you meant Saturn and moon? Depends. See, this is the thing. It depends, because it's like, if you have that in your chart, you could be used to that energy. But at the same time, Saturn can also feel restrictive, or it can feel kind of like karmic in the sense where it's like you're clearing karma that's connected to the parents through this person as well. So it depends on the rest of the energies in the chart. Because sometimes Saturn can be grounding. Let's say there's Neptune and all these things, Saturn can kind of ground it all in. Or sometimes it can be restrictive. So it depends. Hey Sue, how are you doing? You said positive Saturn aspects or any aspect. I would say positive ones. You said, can I tell you about Venus trine Lilith? You have that. So sometimes Venus trine Lilith is looking for taboo or like dark relationships, okay? Because Lilith can be, you know, taboo, hidden, dark sexuality, right? So when you have Venus trine Lilith, you could be looking for this in relationships, or unconsciously it could play out in your relationships as well. But it's a trine, right? So you might not feel it necessarily as much. Like the trine sometimes kind of comes through effortlessly. It's not, let's say, as intense, let's say as a square or an opposition. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for being here as well. Thank you for your questions. I'm just going back up. Oh my gosh, just friends, you're so funny. Literally, I had somebody else message me the same thing about that live. You said different thing. When I guess someone's sign, am I usually correct? You tend to guess moon signs. Depends on the person. Depends like when I am. I already answered your question, Holger. Unless you have another one that you wanted to know about. Oh my gosh, you said, is there any new asteroids that I'm researching? Any favorites? The one currently that I'm looking at is Psyche, so stay tuned for that. It depends how, like, well I know the person, or how long I've known them, or how much I've talked to them. Sometimes I can guess right away, and sometimes I don't pick up on it right away. Like, I met a person when I went to an event once, and this person was a Taurus rising, and the way that they presented themselves was so like put together, like Taurus rising energy, you know what I mean? Like business put together. But then when I started talking to them, they had a Pisces moon, and I could really see the Pisces moon, because like the train of thought was just like all over the place. I was like, what is going on here? So it's like, it depends. Do you know what I mean? Especially if I'm like just meeting people. So sometimes I can hook into it right away. Sometimes I don't. Usually if I'm around the person for a longer period of time, I'm able to hook into the energies, or if I'm talking to them more often, but I don't have to talk to the person, to be honest. Sometimes I can just like observe. That's just like the nature of the Scorpio energy. Venus in the 12th house synastry depends again, okay? With the Venus in the 12th house, because it can go two ways with the 12th house synastry, and it depends on your chart, and it depends on the other person's chart, okay? With Venus in the 12th house, it's similar to like Venus-Neptune aspects, because it's like either, okay, this is like an unconditionally loving type of relationship, you know, you might feel like, oh my gosh, I met my one true love. There's usually an instant connection with Venus in the 12th house, okay? Maybe the Venus person will feel it more or first. It depends, again, the 12th house person, what's going on in their chart. And it depends what's going on with their unconscious. Because for the 12th house person, the Venus going into there, okay, into the 12th house, if that person is not okay with their unconscious and they don't know what's going on, they might feel uncomfortable or like overly exposed to the Venus person. But that could be a psychic connection. It could be, again, a past life connection. You just feel comfortable. It's like an instant comfort with Venus in the 12th house. But at the same time, you guys, it could also be deception. It could be lies. It could be not seeing the person clearly. It could be putting the person on a pedestal, or they put you on a pedestal, okay? And then when you don't live up to that pedestal that they kind of put you on, they get upset, but it's like they put you on the pedestal. You know what I mean? It's like this. But sometimes also with the 12th house energy, like Neptune aspects, you unconsciously play into their fantasy, right? So it depends, okay? Because it could be very illusion-like, very movie-like, very dreamy, but at the same time, the 12th house can also be past life enemies, okay? So this person depends how evolved are they and what's going on with them and what's going on with you, okay? Because if you're already maybe somebody who struggles with seeing people clearly, or you're very forgiving, or you don't have strong boundaries, or again, you're more in that 12th house energy of just like unconditional love and like peace and all these things, right? It's like, again, you won't see them clearly, right? And then they can kind of blindside you, okay? That's why sometimes with the 12th house, you know, people advise against it, but it depends, because if you're a 12th houser already, you see through people, right? If you're not in the illusion-like energy. So it depends, you know what I mean? But that's Venus in the 12th house. It's always kind of like, again, past life, instant connection, you know, you feel comfortable around them, and it's very unconditionally loving. Like there's a lot of just like understanding with the Venus in the 12th house. There's a lot of not compromise. There's a lot of like forgiveness. That's the word that I'm looking for, with the Venus going into the 12th house. So the sign in here also like matters, like what's going on with the sign. But overall, Venus in the 12th house is this. Like it can be a longer term dynamic, and it can also be a dynamic where it's like hidden, right? So it's like either you hide your feelings for them, they hide their feelings for you. You guys, you know, maybe we're together and then eventually you're not together anymore and you're hiding feelings for each other. It could be something like this. And it can also go on for a period of time, because again, 12th house doesn't have boundaries, right? That energy could manifest into sometimes an affair, or you know, like a side person, you know, taking place, and you might be okay with being the person on the side, or they might be okay with being the person on the side, or maybe you're both like the person on the side for each other, you know? So it's this, okay? And think about it this way, like think about movies and kind of like the toxicity sometimes that they show in movies, like, oh, I love you, but I can't be with you, or there's this obstacle, or there's this amount of suffering to be together. Like that's all 12th house types of things, right? So when you have that synastry, you might unconsciously play that out, okay? Or be looking for that. You're welcome. You said sun and rising in Gemini, moon in Pisces, Jupiter in Capricorn, second house in Cancer, 10th house in Aquarius, money and career. I mean, you can make money through real estate with the second house in Cancer. The 10th house needs to be free with the Aquarius energy, so maybe you might be interested in working for yourself or entrepreneurship. It's usually something that is unique to you. I've seen engineers have 10th house in Aquarius, or people who are in the science world, or people who do like tech and AI and startups and all those things. Like that can be 10th house in Aquarius, but it could also be like a humanitarian person, right? It could be like an activist with a 10th house in Aquarius. It could be this, it could be astrology sometimes too. But you do have second house in Cancer. So second house in Cancer is usually like real estate, or you work for your country. Do you know what I mean? Or let's say you work from home, for example, or you work with homes, or something of this sort. You do have the sun and rising in Gemini, so you're probably gonna have to talk a lot, you know, in terms of what you do for work, like a sales type of role maybe. And then the 8th house in Capricorn, Jupiter in the 8th in Capricorn, that'll be grounding you, okay? Even though Jupiter is like not in the best placement when it's in Capricorn, it'll help ground you. And then you have moon in Pisces. I'm gonna say the moon in Pisces is gonna be the struggle in this whole story, because you're gonna go off into the ethers, into the dream world, or it could be like this, it could be like that, and a lot of time could pass, okay, with the moon in Pisces. So that's something that you might have to integrate, okay? You're welcome. I am a Libra. That's an excellent guess. Yes, I'm a Libra sun and rising, but my sun is in the 12th house. You said you have 12th house, Jupiter and Scorpio. What's your past life karma? With Scorpio, I always feel like that they were involved in the occult in one way, shape, or form in a previous lifetime, and they're trying to rectify that in this lifetime. Like when I say rectify, like sometimes it depends. Okay, so you guys can take it as it resonates, but sometimes with Scorpio, I feel like they may have used energy manipulation, energy work, maybe in a shadow sense. So you're not meant to do that in this lifetime, okay? Not meant to use kind of like the occult type of life, right? In a shadow sense. So you're gonna have to tread very carefully, okay? With the Scorpio energy. And then 12th house Jupiter could be like, 12th house Jupiter could be like, maybe you were a spiritual practitioner also, but like, you know, like a guru or something of that sort. Kind of what I'm picking up on for you is you could have been maybe a guru where you like manipulated people, okay, using your spiritual gifts. So maybe you're rectifying that in this lifetime where you're using it in the divine version, okay? Take it as it resonates, but that's kind of what I hooked into for that. But 12th house Jupiter can also, again, it'll expand you with the 12th house Jupiter and in Scorpio. Like you have a lot of spiritual gifts, right? And you could have been a spiritual worker or practitioner in a previous lifetime, and you have spiritual gifts. With great power comes great responsibility, okay? So it's going to be up to you to try your hardest not to manipulate the energy in a shadow sense, because sometimes it happens like without you even realizing, okay? Let's see. You said you think astrology gives us all a new perspective. For example, in therapy or psychology, the theories are seemingly based on everyone is the same. Exactly. When you hear about descriptions of people, you say what is their sign. Exactly. Okay, so all of that every study is very much like trying to put people into a box, right? And you can't put people into a box. And that's why astrology is more advanced, in my own opinion, allegedly, okay? Because you see in a natal chart that every person is unique. So you can't kind of have like a one size fits all. And that's usually why when people take those routes, okay, in terms of trying to heal, maybe it'll temporarily assist them, or it'll give them, you know, some sort of relief because they have someone to talk to, and it'll give them some tools. But a lot of the time I find a lot of those things have just like band-aid solutions, just my opinion, allegedly. So usually you have to get to the root of the issue, okay? Whenever you have an issue, and that takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of self-reflection, and it's like, the only way you'll know is when you're triggered, but it's like you have to really explore the trigger, because if you're still getting triggered, you still haven't gotten to the root of the issue, okay? Because you have to get to the root of the trigger, and then you have to see what is it, and then you have to transmute the energy, okay? And that takes a lot of time. Most people don't even want to do that. Okay, I'm going back up to see what you guys were saying at the top. Let's see, what were you guys saying up here? You said North Node conjunct Pluto and Venus in the 9th house. So you're going to have to go through some sort of change and transformation to activate your North Node with that. You said North Node conjunct Venus in Synastry. So the way that they love you, or their friendship, or their, you know, romantic partnership is going to activate you into your life purpose, okay? With that. You said nothing to be afraid of as long as you're a good person. Exactly. I've noticed a lot of the time people who are super paranoid, it's because they're doing something shady. Do you know what I mean? That's the only reason you would be paranoid, you know? I mean, not always. Sometimes people have kind of like fears, or just like something that they have to work through. But let's say you are doing everything correctly, that won't come up for you as much. People have a lot of anxiety. Like, you know, when people are doing something shady, or they're like lying, or they're trying to like live a double life, or they're trying to like cover all the bases, like, or the people, you know, who are doing these types of like activities, it's like, I find that they tend to go into paranoia or like extreme anxiety. Obviously, not all of them. You said thoughts on life path 1. You're here to start a new cycle, okay? And you're a leader and starting something new in this lifetime. Hey, Makita, how are you doing? You said, hey, you're glad you caught me live. You said you're Libra sun. Hey, Aries moon, Pisces rising. You said your Saturn is in Taurus and it's in the 3rd house. You genuinely feel like you're always chasing money to feel stable, and it's not enough. Exactly. That tends to happen with the Saturn and Taurus. That's exactly what tends to happen with the Saturn and Taurus. I'm curious to know what's going on with your Pluto. I'm trying to think if you're a Pisces rising. Let me know. What house do you have Pluto? And if you're still in the chat, because this was a while ago, your question. But that's the thing. So when you have Saturn and Taurus, this is what's important to understand. You incarnate into this lifetime either into having money or no money. Okay, it's karmic. It's karmic, and it's connected to the father. Okay, and a lot of the time, you know, that feeling, and this is what I mean. And it's so interesting. I was just speaking on this in terms of healing, like any sort of trigger in life or anything, right? Any sort of wounding or belief system. Okay, you have to get to the root of that wound. Okay. Allegedly, in my own opinion, and you guys know my disclaimers. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a medical practitioner, like all these things, okay? Just my own thoughts from just observing life, okay? So it's like, if you feel like you're always chasing money to feel stable, right? That's something that happens with Taurus energy, because it's like a lot of the time Taurus, I find, especially if you have Saturn in Taurus, because it's like a restriction on money, okay? So whether the money's there or not there, it doesn't really matter, because it's more so the feeling that's connected to the money, right? So sometimes people incarnate into having money, but you still feel like, or were made to feel like you didn't have it, right? And a lot of the time, not having money is connected to security. It's connected to the root chakra. It's connected to all these things, okay? With the root chakra, safety, right? So probably instead of chasing money to feel stable, okay, you're actually chasing security and safety, right? So you're gonna have to redefine that for yourself, right? Because that's what happens with Taurus. It's like they're always trying to get more, and it's like you need like a cushion sometimes with that Taurus energy, right? To be like, okay, like now I'm safe, right? But it's the feeling. This is what I mean when you're healing. You have to get to the bottom of the feeling, right? Because it's like you can just feel not safe overall, right? And that's connected usually to something, again, I'm not a psychologist or a medical practitioner, but it's usually connected to something that took place in the earlier part of your life, where you have this connection to when you don't have enough money, you don't have the cushion, you don't feel safe, right? And it's like, it gives you like an anxiety. So you're gonna have to rewire that for yourself, or like explore or see, okay, where it's coming from, basically. Exactly. No, I know. I just have to put that disclaimer out there, because you never know. You know what I mean? You said, what metaphysical things have I been thinking about a lot recently? Oh my goodness. I love when you guys ask me this question, because I can go off I usually write about it on my threads, okay? So check out my threads, you guys. Anytime I think of something, I write it on there. So a few things that I've been thinking about and I want you guys to think about too, okay? One thing that I've been thinking about is when people do psychedelics or plant medicine, they never, and they draw, you know, the people who do like the psychedelic art or they do like the visionary art, they never draw anything to do with astrology. Have you noticed that? And I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, where are these people going, okay, when they do psychedelics and when they do plant medicine? Because it could be two things. Either they're going up into like the bound of this realm, okay, so they're still within this realm, they're not actually exiting it. So it's either that or they're exiting the realm. Now, my belief from thinking about all of this is because a lot of them, have you noticed, when they draw their paintings, they're always drawing eyes, okay? And I've spoken about this when I speak on Saturn, okay? My belief, allegedly in my own opinion, okay, is that they are hitting the energetic wall or whatever way, shape, or form you want to look at it. That is Saturn, the grid that I talk about all the time. And that's the eyes, okay? Because Saturn energetically is kind of what's happening on the astral plane, right? That's how karma works and all these things, okay? Is because there's allegedly, in my own opinion, all these eyes, right, that are kind of like keeping track of what you do in terms of your actions. And that's kind of how Saturn works down here. Again, allegedly, in my own opinion, okay? Now, that being said, when people do the plant medicine or the psychedelics, okay, I just find it really interesting that they're not going past that, okay, because none of them draw anything to do with, I mean, I haven't seen all the paintings in the world, but a lot of the paintings that I have seen, or anytime I stumble upon this or someone that does psychedelic art, it's always similar, right? It's always geometric shapes and, you know, they have the light and all these things, and none of them ever draw anything to do with astrology. I've never seen anything to do with astrology, and I want to know why. I want to know where they're going, actually, okay? So that's my most recent thought. You said the other day you laughed so hard, it just hit you why the band is named Third Eye Blind. There you go. They want everyone's third eye to be blind, unfortunately. Allegedly, in my opinion. And by they, I mean like, you know, the world. Okay, let's see what else you guys are saying here. You said, we know karma is real. You said, who's gonna encourage each other to change you? Exactly. Everyone has to change their own life. You said, it makes you feel like when people say when their time comes, it's all manipulation. It's all up to what you're doing. That's what everyone has to understand. I'm kind of going back up, so I'm not sure if it was like a whole train of thought that you had here. You said, not too bad. It's just the fact that you know too much and people don't want to change positively. Here's the thing. Oh, thank you, Holger. Yeah, here's the thing. You know, you can't really control the outside world, right? And people changing and all this. Most people won't change. Most people are happy being in their complacency and their comfort. A lot of them are happy in their toxicity because they're not even aware, right? It's like if you don't know better, okay, or if you don't know life outside of that, you know, you're just going to continue perpetuating that, right? And what can you do? Nothing. You know what I mean? Like, you can say all the things, and even when people come to you for advice, I've noticed this too, right? Most of the time, people are coming to be validated in whatever it is that they're feeling or they're thinking. They don't want the actual advice. You know what I mean? Like, you know, leave that job or exit that situation or whatever it is, right? They're not actually looking for that. They're looking for confirmation of what they're already thinking or feeling. They don't want the real answer. Most people, obviously not everyone, right? Most people. And this is part of the reason why I stopped doing like psychic readings, because I would see something and I would tell people like it is. And I noticed that more like often than not, people are just looking to be validated. They're not actually looking for the truth in the situation, right? And it's so interesting because I actually had this experience too from somebody that I know. So take this in. This is literally confirming this whole theory that I just told you guys about how people are just looking to be validated in whatever their experience is versus actually sometimes changing or transforming or getting out of that situation. So somebody that I knew was like in a very interesting situation where it was very, very clearly very Neptunian, okay? And, you know, a lot of Neptunian energy taking place in this situation. I'm going to try to speak between the lines and be very vague, okay? So this person went to a psychic and the psychic was good for a period of time, I guess, while that psychic was validating their experience and kind of feeding into it. But then at some point, the psychic was kind of like giving them a different answer and basically being like, okay, it's this now, or something different, like something that wasn't confirming what they were thinking and believing. You know what they did? Instead of listening to the psychic, and it's so interesting because I'm just observing all of this because I know how these people are, especially if there's a Neptunian fog or a Neptunian haze in a situation, people can't see outside of that, honestly, okay? So I'm not saying anything, I'm just observing, because literally that's all I do these days. I just observe people, unless you ask me. If you ask me, I'll tell you, but most people don't want to hear it, you know what I mean? So I'm just listening, and they're talking poorly about this psychic or whatever. They're being like, oh, I don't think they're a good psychic anymore because they said this. And in my head, I'm listening and I'm like, literally everything the psychic told you is literally like the truth. Like, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, they're on point, right? Because the person's in like this Neptunian bubble. So anyways, because they're in kind of like their Lululand, right, and just like their illusionary world, they went to go find another psychic that like confirmed and fed into this. And this is what's unfortunate. This is why a lot of people think of psychics as scammers, because sometimes you do have the shadow psychic people who have the gifts, and then they see these types of people and they can be opportunists or they can be narcissistic, depends, right? Because you have spiritual people who have gifts but they use them in a narcissistic sense, and then they hook into these people and then they're just telling them what they want to hear. It's like, oh yeah, for sure, that's what's gonna happen, and then it just continues being like this cycle, right? So this is what I mean, right? So sometimes people don't want to hear the truth, or they're not ready for it. Even if you tell them sometimes and they're not ready to hear it, it's just gonna go right over their head. It's like a blank stare half the time. So with all of that being said, sometimes you just have to let people do their own thing if they're toxic and they don't want to change, and you just enjoy your life. Like, that's literally my philosophy. My philosophy is like, you all do what you want to do, and I'm just gonna go over here and just do things that I love to do. So it's this. He said, verification of one of my earlier thoughts. Right at your second Saturn return, you had a life-changing event, and it reflected by the vertex in the 7th house. Scary accuracy. This was wild. This was wild. And here's the thing. I literally try not to look at the transits because I just want to enjoy life. But just yesterday, I was like, why have I been picking up on this energy? And I literally went to go look at the transits, and I was like, what is it? And then I looked and saw, and I found the answer. And I'm just like, literally, I was like hooking into it already, like intuitively and psychically, without even knowing what the transit was affecting in my natal chart. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, there's no running from it. You said no lies were told. You said preserve your peace. You said you just hate when they ask for help. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Sometimes you have to have boundaries with those types of people, where you're just kind of like, okay, yeah, next, or just like pass them on to another person. You have to like learn how to deal with those types of people because sometimes they can be too much. You said how to handle emotions with Moon conjunct Neptune in the 8th house. Wow. And you said it's an Aquarius. And then you said with the sun in the 8th house as well. So this is a perfect example of looking at the whole story, okay? Because look, if you just said you have Moon in Aquarius, someone's gonna be like, you're detached and you just like wanna do your own thing and you want freedom. Not so much with the Moon conjunct Neptune and it being in the 8th house. Like, that is, first of all, super psychic, okay? Second of all, you're merging, okay? So when you have this energy, you are merging to everybody and everything around you, okay? So if you live in an area that is dark or dense or intense, okay? Or you're dating someone that's dark or dense or intense or whatever. Let's say you have a roommate, or let's say you have a job, whatever it is, you are now merging to those people, okay? So you're gonna have to be very aware of this because you can't close that energy, unfortunately, I find. You can try as hard as you can to close the aura, but you're still gonna be sensitive energetically. You're gonna tap into what's going on around you. So the best thing to do is to figure out your own emotions first and what's going on right within you, so you're not merging to everybody around you, because you do have the Aquarius energy in there that wants to be free, okay? So the energy is still there and the potential is there, right? To be detached. But for you to fully be detached, you have to not merge, because it could be a lot of you merging into other people's wounds and wounding. And it's like, that's not even you. They're projecting onto you, but you're not merging to them because you have this opening and energetically, I guess, in your auric field. I guess that's the way to look at it. You have Sun in the 8th house as well. That's intense. Usually Sun in the 8th, I find the father could have been intense. I don't do Vedic astrology. I do Placidus tropical. You said, how does Aries and Scorpio people not engage with this fear-mongering? What fear-mongering? Oh, you said something earlier here. You said not to bring all this back down to the earth plane. Of course. I mean, that's where we're at. You said, but the U.S. on Saturday is going to have a huge protest. You said you have a hard time not getting, oh yeah, I saw about that, getting involved with the stress and like it lowering your energy. And then you said you don't want to give them, exactly, you don't want to give them energy with fear and anxiety. I hate to say this, but I feel like a lot of the time, all those things are organized literally like by someone who is in the higher up position, because that's like the outcome that they want to have. So you have to not feed into that, because here's my thing, okay? Going out there and marching and protesting, this is just my own opinion, okay? Doesn't really do much, because if it was going to do anything, it would have changed things like way back in the day. Do you know what I mean? People have been like doing those types of protests for years, and it's like, okay, it's a sign and it's a symbol, but personally, allegedly, in my opinion, I find a lot of those things are seeds planted either in the astral, or again, someone like plants it from, again, the higher ups, because that's kind of like the controlled outcome that they want, right? In my opinion, if people want to do a real protest, okay, you have to hit people, these people, where it hurts, allegedly, in my own opinion, okay? You know, it has to be something to do with money. So not working, not paying for things, like that's the real protest, okay? So that's what everyone should get together. And I'm not trying to organize this. If anyone is tuning into this, okay, it's just an opinion and an idea. That would be a real protest, okay? Hitting the wallets is really, really what that is, you know, and kind of bringing the whole thing down. I have to speak between the lines. But people are too divided to come to that consensus and agree to do that. Okay. And unfortunately, these types of things, right, where it's in person and everyone's congregating together, again, they put a person in there, they plant the person in there. Have you noticed there's always violence, or there's always something popping off, or there's always intensity, and there's always these things? Those are all plants, in my opinion. And then it's like one person does it or says it or triggers another person, and then it's a ripple effect from like the everyday people. Do you know what I mean? So that's just something I want everyone to think about, okay, when it comes to those things. Now, you being a sensitive person and you're tapping into this, I mean, it's up to you to see how can you handle or like deal with not hooking into the energy. But there's a lot of protests happening worldwide, okay? I think I told you guys on my last live, I traveled to a few different countries recently and a few different cities also, okay, within those countries, and somehow ended like up walking into 2 different protests in literally 2 different countries because I was like in their main city, and then like there was protests, and I was like, oh my goodness, like how did I align with this, right? Obviously I just like stayed away, but it's this. So the thing is, the way that I see it is like, if people want change, they have to not engage with that thing anymore. Like they have to make the conscious change in their mind and be like, I'm not going to engage with it anymore. Like whatever you don't like to do, you know? But again, I have to speak between the lines because I'm not trying to, you know, put anything out there. Everything's alleged in my own opinion only. And another thing that I guess collectively we can do is send good vibes, and you can try to counteract the energy. Here's the thing, like most people don't understand how much spiritual power they have because they're not empowered. They're not like empowered within themselves. Like if you're able to pull all your energy back to you, like most humans, okay, who are sentient conscious beings have a lot of power, right? So even if you like try to divert the energy with your thoughts, you would be able to, right? So if a lot of people did it together, they would divert the energy, okay? But honestly, don't worry, because here's my opinion on things. As soon as there's hype about something, like I find that that's not when like the actual thing happens. Do you know what I mean? It's usually like an energy siphoning, RITUAL, allegedly, in my opinion. I'm so glad that you guys agree with me. We're all on the same page. Your vibe attracts your tribe. Yes. I'm glad that that all resonates. I just think that if everybody, like, again, if everyone was able to come to a general consensus and like not be divided, but that's all done by design, right? They're doing the whole divide and conquer thing, whether it's religion, whether it's politics, whether it is all these things, okay, that like, you know, divide people. If everyone was able to come together, because there's more of us, there's literally more of us, right? It's like a very few individuals, and I'm again speaking between the lines here. But yeah, so if everyone was able to actually come to some sort of consensus and be like, okay, you know, I'm not engaging in this activity anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. And I speak about this on my threads because I go off on my threads about all these things. And I always have to say allegedly my own opinion. You said, how did they implant thoughts into the collective consciousness? Okay, so this is what happens, okay? Again, in my own opinion. So they're always chilling on the astral, right? And this is why I talk about healing, and healing is important, and getting in tune with yourself and your own energetic wounds, and basically closing your auric field, okay? Because what happens, a lot of the time, what happens is people come at you that are closest in your circle if their energetic field is open. This is why everyone should try to stay away from drugs, should try to stay away from substances, should try to stay away from anything that opens up your energetic field, okay? Anything that opens you up. And I have a video on this. It's called How to Stay Grounded as a 12 House Person, and also I have another one called How Entities Attach. And I'm not trying to put fear out there. This is just what's happening metaphysically, okay? People don't understand like the metaphysical aspect of life and just like energy and how all these things work, okay? So if your energy field is open, and usually it could be open because you have a wound, and again, the wound is usually connected to some sort of feeling or emotion that you have not processed and you're trying to mask. So if you go into some sort of addictive energy, you are opening yourself up, right? And if you're open, an entity could latch in and hook into that energy, right? This is why, let's say you're someone who tries, you know, your best and the hardest for yourself, right, to close your energetic field and to close your auric field and all these things that I just mentioned, and try to keep your frequency high. And like, when I say keep your frequency high, because people bypass, okay, it's not bypassing. When I say keep your frequency high, you actually have to transmute all of the lower vibrational emotions and energies, okay? Let's say you are in that vibe, and then you have someone in your life, let's say this person drinks a lot, or let's say they smoke a lot, or let's say they do a lot of drugs, or let's say they whatever, have, you know, a corn with a pea addiction, right? they are opening their energetic fields through doing these things. And even if you're cleansing your energy and doing the most, right, to try to protect yourself, now the entity latches onto that person and they come at you. And have you guys noticed that I call this mosquitoes on the astral? They come at you and they try to get at you in whatever your wound is, and they try to hook into this. Most relationships, in my opinion, allegedly, are based in attachment, because usually what happens for a lot of people in relationships, they figure out what the other person's need is, okay, or wounds, right? They hook into that, and that's usually how they keep them around, okay? And then you'll see this a lot of the time with narcissistic energy, right? Because they kind of do the bait and switch, right? So they'll kind of soothe whatever the need is, and then they'll poke at you with whatever the wound is. And then it puts you into cognitive dissonance, and you're stuck then, right? That's usually how a trauma bond energetically creates. My threads is my Instagram. It's BAR. I'm pretty much the same on all my platforms, okay? So it's BARBARA, okay, JSC. So Barbara JSC on Instagram and threads, and you guys can go read my threads. And if you're just like, you know, tuning in for the first time on my threads, maybe give yourself some time to integrate the information, because it's like, honestly, it's a lot, okay? But in the best possible way. And it's this. And then my TikTok is BJOSIC. You said division has been their main tactics for years. Exactly. Hey, Clarice, how are you doing? You said for centuries. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's what they do. And unfortunately, the collective's not that intelligent. I hate to say that, but I had more hope for the collective. But after 2020, I was like, yeah, we're cooked. So all you can do is just like try to disconnect energetically, because it's like, I'm not sure if you guys have heard of this, but it's like down here, the food for the dark entities is all of the lower vibrational emotions. So it's like anxiety and fear and, you know, all these things, right? Scarcity and pretty much those. Shame. Shame is another big one as well, okay? Anything that keeps you in the lower chakras is going to be food for them. And that's how you get bound to this earth plane. So that's why you have to try to activate the heart space and go into the higher frequencies. So remember earlier how I was telling you guys how Saturn is gridding energetically, allegedly, my opinion, this earth plane, and that's like the eyes that all the psychedelic people draw, right? In their paintings. That's Saturn, right? So for them not to see you on the astral, you have to go above their frequency, right? And also that's kind of how you don't feed into Saturn and all of this control stuff, okay? I almost swore, but I'm trying not to swear online, okay? So to raise your frequency, you have to go into the heart space and higher, but you have to clear the wounding, right? It's actually a lot of work. A lot of the New Age people kind of bypass. They're more in like the Neptune world, right? They're like singing Kumbaya, and they think that, you know, by doing that, it's going to kind of integrate everything, but you have to actually integrate the shadows is really what that is, okay? And this is what I mean by Neptune and Pisces within people. Sometimes when people are Neptunian but in the shadow, they're like bypassing, right? They're like, oh, I don't need to do shadow work. I literally had somebody say that to me once. This person was like, I don't need to do shadow work. Or no, what did they say? They were like, I don't believe in shadow work. And I was like, okay. I was like, I can't say anything after this. Like, what am I supposed to say? Right? So it is what it is. When people are ready, like they'll kind of open it up for themselves. Oh, I'm glad that resonated. Hey, Phoenix. I do different types of readings, okay? So I have my mini natal chart reading, that's 20 minutes approximately. And then in the mini natal chart reading, you can go on my website for the pricing, because I did update it recently, or like when the new year started, I updated it. But yes, so I have my mini natal chart reading, that's 20 minutes. And all of my readings are in a video format, okay? So it's just me talking for literally the entire time. So for the mini natal chart reading, you can either tell me what you want me to look at, okay? If you have something specific, let's say you want to know about career, or let's say you want to know about relationships, or let's say you want to know about your family or your life purpose, whatever, right? Let's say you have a specific question. I could do the mini natal chart reading and just look at that for you. And I don't do predictions, by the way, you guys. I don't do predictive readings, and I don't do transit readings, okay? So that's the mini natal chart reading. And then if you don't want that, then I can just do whatever jumps out at me when I pull up your chart, okay? It's a flow always for me. So whatever I'm like hooking into, I'll let you know. So that's the mini natal chart reading. Then I have the regular natal chart reading. The regular natal chart reading is about 45 minutes, okay? 45 minutes long. And in that one, again, I go over everything, okay? So I talk for the whole 45 minutes, okay? So that's the natal chart reading. And then I have the progressed natal chart reading. That one's about an hour long. And then same thing, I talk for the whole hour for that one. So I talk with the original natal chart, and then I talk with the progressed version of the natal chart as well, and what all of that means. So that's the progressed natal chart reading. And then I have synastry readings, okay? So if you want to know the synastry between you and another person, and that one I believe is 45 minutes as well. And yes, it's this, okay, for the reading. So you guys can go on my website underneath the readings tab. You can select which reading you guys would like. An email window should pop up. And then when the email window pops up, you can send me an email and we'll go from there, okay? Then I'll send you like the rest of the information. So that's the readings. Then I also have one-on-one business guidance, okay? So let's say you want to start your own business or you have a question and you want to have like a one-time meeting. You know, you can send me an email for that. Or I have like my one-on-one business guidance program, which is 3 months, but also I need to update it as well. So it's 3 months every week, but we could also do 6 months like every other week as well. If that's easier for you guys. Let's say you guys started a business or you want to have your own business or whatever. Okay, you need assistance or guidance or anything of that sort. So that's on there as well. And then I also have follow-ups. So like, let's say I did the reading and that's for the longer reading. So let's say I did the reading for you and you want to talk more. I have a 30-minute follow-up and then I have the 1-hour follow-up. And that's pretty much everything, okay? In terms of my services. Hey, Nature's Moon, how are you doing? You said, wouldn't life be boring if everything was kumbaya? I mean, you know what's interesting? I was kind of like in that life for a period of time because honestly, sometimes I feel like I'm just like engaging in social experiments. So I've been part of so many different groups in my life, okay? So I went through that phase, okay, where I was like, oh, like I just want to go live in a forest and like live the hippie life and yeah, sing kumbaya in a circle. But honestly, it was so flat and like stagnant and complacent to the energy. I'm like, how do people do this every day? I don't know. I'm just like too hyper. Like I need to be doing more, you know, but it was very interesting. It was a very interesting what's the word? I wanted to say like project. I don't know why I wanted to say art project, but observational project, I guess, observing people and humans. You said this is probably blasphemous, but it is wrong to say how much you love shadow work. Exactly. For many of us, that's the reason why we're here. Exactly. But you're also a Scorpio person. So thank you, Sue loves astrology. You said, can I speak on the aspects that a natal chart, you said aspects in a natal chart that make it easy or difficult to have friendships. Okay. Let's see, Venus square Saturn could be a hard one. Venus square Saturn, because Venus square Saturn, you might struggle with your self-worth and you could be closed off. And any Saturn aspect, sometimes it depends, right? Because sometimes Saturn aspects, even if you have Moon square Saturn, you might deal with depression, okay? You might be super like reserved and closed off and you might not be like in tune with your feelings or emotions or like your vulnerability. So Venus square Saturn for sure. Venus square Saturn could be a struggle in relationships overall because it can also be connected to worthiness. So it's like you might not feel worthy of relationships subconsciously. Because the thing is, sometimes consciously you can know these things. You can be like, I'm so worthy, you know, but then your actions are kind of showing either people or the universe or yourself otherwise, right? So it depends, okay? So that's the Venus square Saturn could be a struggle for sure in friendships or even relationships, romantic relationships as well. I'm trying to think what else. If it's romantic relationships, I've seen a lot of like Moon, Saturn, or hold on. No, Chiron, Moon aspects, okay? For people who struggle with relationships when it comes to women or people operating out of the feminine energy, there could be a wound there, okay? You will see that a lot with like the people who are super in the shadow masculine energy, okay? Who like rant all day about feminines. A lot of them have Moon and Chiron aspects taking place in their chart. But then you have the opposite of that as well. Like let's say it's the feminines who have issues with the masculine. Let's say they're in the shadow feminine energy. They could have Moon, hold on. I keep saying Moon, but it's Chiron, Saturn aspects, okay? That could be for people who struggle with relationships when it comes to masculines, okay? Chiron, Saturn, and the same thing, Chiron, Mars could be a struggle when it comes to masculines in your life or masculine relationships. I'm trying to think what else. Chiron, Venus could also be like overall a struggle. Like Chiron, Venus, the way I've seen Chiron, Venus manifest for people is kind of like you being left out. Do you know what I mean for Chiron, Venus? Or it's like, you know, not being part of the group, or there's like a wound there of like not being included or maybe being different than everybody. Like that's how Chiron Venus I've seen manifest for people. But you can have Chiron Venus in romantic relationships as well. It doesn't just have to be friendships. And then I had another one, but it just slipped my mind. Thank you, Sue loves astrology. Venus conjunct Saturn. I want to say pretty much all Venus Saturn aspects, there's going to be some level of struggle, okay? Because it's Saturn, right? And it depends, again, what else is going on in the chart, because it's like Venus, you know, Saturn aspects, right? It's like, it depends on you as a person if you're okay with being vulnerable and open, right? Because Saturn can really close people off. So what about Saturn conjunct Moon and Pisces in the 3rd house? That's usually a challenging upbringing as well when you have Saturn conjunct Moon. overall. Okay, moon Saturn aspects is going to be like, again, a cold home, a cold upbringing. Maybe there was struggles around finances because you have it in Pisces. There's something here also with the home and the family. It could be the mother with the moon as well, whereas like the parents weren't ready to have kids. I find that sometimes with the Pisces energy and the moon, or like the parents were escapists, or maybe they were too young and maybe they were doing their own thing. Sometimes like something that I always get as like a psychic visual for like the moon and Pisces energy is, you know, parents were like artists and kind of like trying to, you know, make it as an artist, but then they had a kid and it's like they're still trying to focus on their like artistic career. And they're like, you know, those like hippies that like have like the long dresses and like they're carrying the guitar and they're like on the run and, you know, there's a kid involved. So that's kind of what I see psychically for that one. How are you guys doing? You said, hi, you have been seeing some family members lately in your dreams, like your mother yesterday and your second other sister a month ago. You said you have Mercury, Sun, Pisces, Chiron in the second house, born Aries, Scorpio moon. Are you not engaging with your family or not talking to them or something? You said, oh yes. You said, please correct you if you're wrong. Saturn return affects one's life. Exactly. You tend to feel it. You already start to feel it about a year before. That's true. You said, what would I say if Jupiter is debilitated in Capricorn? Is it true if it's in the 8th house? Here's the thing, okay? They say it's debilitated, but, okay? It's an earth plane at the end of the day, and in my opinion, it's ruled by Saturn. So Jupiter in Capricorn, the whole reason it's debilitated here is because Jupiter wants to be spiritual, okay? Oh, thank you. I know a lot about everything. You're so kind. I just know a lot about everything because I'm always thinking and I'm always talking to people and I'm literally like friends with everyone. Literally, okay? When I say like everybody, right? So anytime I'm talking to someone, I'm getting information and I'm talking to them and I'm learning and all these things. And then I'm also curious about everything. So then I'm also researching things and looking things up and all these things. And yeah, it could be this. But yes, what was I saying earlier about, okay, Jupiter. So Jupiter in Capricorn, yeah, it falls here because, okay, Jupiter wants to be spiritual, right? It's exalted in Cancer, so Jupiter wants to be spiritual. But here's the thing, okay? The earth plane is the earth plane, right? You can't go frolic through the fields. Again, unless you're like financially set, or maybe you have an inheritance, or you maybe made a lot of money, or again, maybe you had a trust fund, whatever, right? Unless you're in one of those situations where you can go frolic through the fields, right? And not care about making money and all these things, then you can be spiritual, right? Like you can, you know, because you don't have to worry about anything else. You know what I mean? But if you're not in that situation and you're trying to make money, or maybe you have a goal or whatever, right? Jupiter in Capricorn is good. You know what I mean? Because it's like the earth plane is Capricorn. That's the way that I see it. So it's blessing you literally in the area of this earth plane, which is making money and all these things, right? So it can be sometimes too materialistic, but it depends what are you trying to do down here is really what that is. Like everyone's circumstance is different, okay? But you'll see some celebrities that have that because it's like Jupiter is blessing you in the area of literally wealth and status and money and all these things when you have Jupiter in Capricorn. So it depends what way you look at it, I guess. But yeah, I don't look at anything as good or bad. You said, are Aries moon and Capricorn moon compatible? Depends. It could be a square, so maybe not. Aries moon and Capricorn moon. What I'm going to say is depends where you have the signs in your charts and what else is going on. You said sometimes you will have thoughts and you see particles like dust floating in your vision. Do you think that's confirmation? I get that too. I actually looked that up once. There's actually a science explanation for this. I know exactly what you're talking about, those like particles that are floating around. There's like a term for it, but I don't remember what it was. You said you want to frolic through the field so bad, literally. If you're Neptunian, if you're Piscean, if you, again, are more spiritual or you're more spiritually inclined, this earth plane is such a challenge for you because it's like you just want to be in the crown chakra all day long. You said you were concerned about this and it just comes naturally to you. So you actually have to work on the other skills when you have more of that energy in your chart. You have to actually work on the masculine energy, which is like boundaries and discipline and working hard. If you're trying to do something, again, right? If you're in a situation where you can be in your crown chakra all day, I mean, by all means. Hey, unknown Bay, how are you doing? You said, is Saturn in Virgo good since it's a fellow earth sign? Saturn in Virgo, you may have had a critical father with that. You said your natal Mars at 0 degrees Aries. Natal Mars at 0 degrees Aries. What do I think of all this eclipse? Neptune, yeah, all going through Aries. You said it's going through your 12th house. Can you tell me what house it's going through? Oh, you said 12th house. Is it all in the 12th house for you? All of that? It's going to be a lot of karmic season or karmic clearance for you. It's like karmic clearance season, basically. You said Mars, Uranus conjunct in the first house in Aquarius can be an aspect for creativity. Absolutely, it can be. It's usually, I find, like creativity of the mind. I find ideas, innovations, technology, sometimes fashion for that energy as well. What else are you guys saying in here? You said, can I talk about Saturn in the 5th and 7 degrees? What does that mean? Saturn in the 5th, you get restricted in the area of your creativity. Speaking of creativity, you get restricted in the area of creativity either by the father or the dominant masculine role in your life, okay? They restrict you. So with that being said, you know, you're gonna have to basically work harder to be creative, and you're actually mastering this in this lifetime. You could also be restricted in the area of children, but it depends, because sometimes for Saturn in the 5th, the children can be karmic, what I've noticed. So sometimes for them, they can either have a kid very young, or they can have one at their Saturn return for Saturn in the 5th, or the first Saturn return. Or sometimes they can have kids far apart. So let's say they have one when they're very young, or they have one when they're older, or you might not have kids at all, okay? Best case scenario for Saturn in the 5th is to have kids after the age of 35, because then you'll enjoy, okay, having the kids, because Saturn matures, right? So that's the thing. So sometimes, again, see, this is interesting. We're going back to like the societal norms and all these things, right? Sometimes people feel like they're delayed because their life isn't going in like the A to B to Z trajectory, right? But it's like sometimes you have to clear certain things first before other things can happen, right? So not everyone's going to fit into a box again, right? So for example, for Saturn in the 5th, if you want to have kids after 35 is better, because you're going to be quote unquote more mature, and also you're going to enjoy your time with your kids more, okay? Usually connected to like finances and like making money and all these things if you have Saturn in the 5th. Or you might not have kids at all. It depends, because it's karma connected to children, because sometimes children, okay, come through because they're bringing two people together to clear karma amongst each other, okay? That's another thing for children. And sometimes children are there so you can clear your own stuff, okay? So I find if you heal your own inner child, you know, you might not necessarily have a kid, right? Because a lot of the time people are healing their inner child through their children. So that's just my own opinion, allegedly. You said, how do you explore your own sexual energy in the highest way, not projecting onto other people or getting blinded by lust and lower energy? Yeah. So don't envision other people, and don't watch anything that involves other people. Because here's the thing, okay? This is the way that I see it. Anytime, and this is for everybody, if you see something, whether it's online or on TV, maybe go out of your way to look it up, okay? And you now get aroused. Hopefully I can say these words on here, okay? Watching that thing, you have to understand that that is that person or that situation, they're taking your sexual energy, right? So you see a lot of the time these people in a lot of these industries make a lot of money because they're actually taking your sexual energy, okay? I'm kind of speaking between the lines. I hope you guys are following. So that being said, it kind of has to come at your own accord, and you have to get in tune with your own energy within, right? It can't be something that is kind of bringing that out within you. I really, really hope that makes sense, because then in a way you're giving your sexual energy away to that person or place or thing. I wrote about this on my threads too, okay? I've talked about how a lot of things down here are involving like sexual energy vampirism. And that's my own opinion, and that's my term. I don't know if other people have spoken on that term before, but I feel like more than anything, it's not just energy vampires down here, it's sexual energy vampires. So everything is like going into the subconscious connected to the sexual energy, because if you're in tune with your own sexual energy within, you're able to manifest for yourself. But that's very hard for people, because from a young age, okay, through all of this programming and all these things, allegedly, it's going into the subconscious, and it's everywhere, right? Because they even like build structures to look like, what's the word? Genitalia, right? So it's always going into your subconscious. So it's like, you have to get in tune with yourself. You have to get in tune with your energy to know when it's your own energy, or when is it being projected onto you, or is it something that's taking your energy away from you? Because let's say you saw something and now you're having that moment where, again, I'm not going to say that word again, but I just mentioned it earlier, okay? The word that starts with A. So that's the thing. So that being said, okay, you're going to have to spend time with yourself, getting in tune with your own energy, right? You have to elevate, essentially, right? Because lust is a different vibration compared to actual sexual energy for manifestation. Because lust is kind of like never ending, right? It's an energy that's like, you know, like an empty vessel. Like it just always wants more, right? And that's kind of like the ego too, right? Those are all the lower chakra types of things. So pulling your energy back to yourself and using that, first of all, trying to get to that heightened point without envisioning another person, first of all, without trying to get stimulated outside of yourself in one way, shape, or form, right? This is like, let's say you're not involved with another person. Because the thing is, even if you're involved with another person, the way that I see sexual energy is like, a lot of the time people are coming towards you because the sexual attraction is like an energy exchange, right? So you have to learn yourself first and be like, are you actually attracted to the person, or are they coming towards you because they're a sexual energy vampire? And I'm not trying to put fear out there. It's just something that happens and most people don't even know, right? And they're trying to take your sexual energy because they want to take your sexual energy to manifest for themselves, because people don't even understand sexual energy, how it actually works, because it's like, You're literally being energetically bound to this person now, right? That's why a lot of the time people try to make that happen fast or try to make it happen quick, right? You're not energetically bound to this person and they could be siphoning your energy off of you, right? And that's sometimes the fastest way to siphon energy, right? And sometimes this is why it's hard for people to cut cords with some people, or they end up in toxic cycles, or they end up coming back to the person. Like, it's very sometimes challenging to, you know, sever the cord with that person because they've hooked into your chakra system essentially, right? Through the sexual energy, almost like vampirism or manipulation, okay? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So you want to learn how to use your energy, right? And again, I can't really explain it because you have to learn for yourself to see within your body, first of all, what does lust feel like? What does it feel like when the energy is being, in one way, shape, or form, like siphoned from you? If it's being siphoned from you, the way that I see it is like it puts you into the lower vibrations, essentially, right? It either puts you into the lower vibrations, it opens up your energetic field, right? Again, if it's not something that you maybe wanted, right? Or maybe you thought you wanted, but you got tricked into it, or you got manipulated into it, like it's a vibrational thing. And the only way you'll know is how it feels, right? So it's this, and like, let's say you're with yourself, the best thing to do is to not envision anybody, right? Like in terms of like their face, like you can envision a person, but try to not put a face that you know what I mean? It shouldn't be someone that you know, because it's like, if you're doing that and it's someone that you know, you're now basically attaching your energy to theirs, and you don't know what their energy is like, right? You're opening your energy field to that person. So it's like, you can get energetically bound in the physical, but you can also get energetically bound in the astral if you are thinking of this person. You're opening your energy field up to that person and you're creating a cord between you and them. And then sometimes you are indirectly interfering with that person's free will. Like, this is a little bit more, maybe higher level, okay? Like, let's say it's not someone that you're involved with and you're like thinking about them or whatever. So I hope that makes sense. There's so much more to say, but you said, can energy be placed onto an object through eyesight or hand contact? Absolutely. Energy can even be placed through eyes, you guys. Like, let's say you look at someone, like the energy is going to be transferred. That's why sometimes you'll see, let's say, very spiritual people wear sunglasses a lot of the time. Or even when they make those, like, you know, movies about agents or whatever, they're always wearing sunglasses. Have you guys noticed? Because energy can be like transfer. And this is why, like, even when I think about religions, all religions, and like why they do certain things, it makes sense to me. Like, let's say when people pray over their food, they're actually cleansing the energy of the food, right? So it's like, you don't know what you're consuming, whether it's food. Let's say someone gives you a gift. Because the thing is, a lot of people have like a lot of jealousy or like envy or just like not the best intentions, right? So they can kind of transfer that. And again, I'm not trying to put fear out there. It's just the way that it is down here, okay? And a lot of the time you'll see, like, if you're trying to elevate or move on, you'll see that these people try to hold on for dear life. And not just this, it's like they do these things to try to pull you back energetically, okay? Or hold you back. It's always the people in your inner circle, because the thing is, the people in your inner circle, you opened your energy field to them. It doesn't just have to be someone romantic. It can be a friend, right? I literally wrote about this on my threads to you guys. I said how Judas was like the person who betrayed Jesus, right? And that person was in the inner circle. So it's always someone who's in your inner circle. If the person isn't in your inner circle, they can't really do anything to you. Let's say someone's trying to, you know, do a spell or whatever. Like, if they don't have that direct link to you, they can't really do anything. I hope that makes sense, okay? So just being aware is really, really all that you can do at the end of the day. You said how to shine and deal with jealousy coming back to hometown. Just keep shining and try to raise your frequency as much as you can. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You said you fell in love with this guy who was cold towards you. He went away to Italy, ate, and then you said, and is lurking your mind every day for the past few weeks. You have to cut the cord with this person energetically. See how you can cut it. And then try to like distract yourself from the physical so you're not thinking about this person so much. Because the thing is, if someone's on your mind a lot, there's like a link, right? Energetically. It's like your energy field is open to that person. So you have to think and be like, why is the energy field open to this person? So you have to try to sever that if you don't want to think about them anymore, that is. You said, are you correct that many people use their sexual energy for energy at work, in other words, to succeed at work? Yeah. Absolutely. Oh yeah, for sure. And in this system that we're living in, at least in the West, you guys would be surprised. Oh my gosh, literally. So I had a friend, And then there was this like naive person that came from somewhere else. Okay, I'm just gonna speak between the lines. And then me and my friend were basically saying how like in the corporate world, like so many people, this is when I used to work corporate back in the day, but this was recent when we met this person, but I was speaking on when I used to work corporate back in the day. And I was saying, and like both of us were like, you don't even know how many people like sleep with each other. Like this is just the corporate world, okay? Sleep with each other, hook up with each other. You know, you spend so much time, right? With these people, how many like managers, and like it happens so much. It happens so much in the workplace, let alone other positions in the world. Oh my goodness, it's actually a thing. And again, I have to say allegedly my own opinion. Hey Sundog, how are you doing? You said you notice how sometimes the edge of your aura feels more rigid, like the energy at the barrier is more solid when someone else is triggering you. It's rigid in the air. Oh yes, I find sometimes, I notice that happens sometimes. Sometimes also, oh, okay, you have a different question. Okay, let me know what your question was. Or were you trying to talk about, that's what I was wondering. Were you trying to talk about using their sexual energy to elevate themselves in their life? You said, okay, Nate, that's so interesting because I noticed that tends to happen. Like sometimes you tense up energetically around a person. That's probably because that's like you, like your energy field trying to protect you from that person so you don't absorb their energy. I hope that makes sense. And this is the thing, if more people were in tune with their intuition, they wouldn't get involved with dark people or shady people because then they would be able to sense how they feel around certain people. You're welcome. Jupiter square Neptune, that's spiritual. Hey Mila, thank you for the kind words. You said, have I ever had any experiences with Jesus in the spiritual realms? No, I haven't. No, not in my dreams. You said if in the dreams or spiritual realms. I don't have a religious upbringing. I tend to find that people who have like a religious upbringing have a lot of experiences with like Jesus or like the archangels. You said pure soul or impure soul attracts more negative energy. Pure soul, for sure. They're trying to throw you off your path, okay? But the impure soul absorbs, like, how do I explain this? The impure soul is like a host for the dark energy, but like the impure soul kind of tries to get at the pure soul to basically corrupt the pure soul, okay? To pull you off your path. That's what everything is about down here, you guys, okay? It's all about trying to throw the soul off its path so you reincarnate again, okay? Down here in this interesting realm that we're currently in. You said, can I shed a bit more light on Venus in Scorpio placements and the obstacles that are so hard to overcome in people with these placements? Okay. Thank you for the kind words. So Venus in Scorpio is intense. It depends. Also, is it coming through, it depends on the person and how evolved is the person. And also depends like what's going on with them and who are they into. And like, are we looking at it in a romantic sense? Or are we looking at it in a friendship sense, okay? Regardless, Venus in Scorpio will come through in both, okay? It's possessive. It's gonna hold on for dear life. It looks for deep like relationships. It looks for depth, okay? But at the same time, it can look for chaos. It can be an energy vampire, this energy, okay? If they are like unhealed or underdeveloped, they can be stalkerish or they can attract stalkers. So it's like you can attract these people to you as well. So you could be like this or you could attract these types of people to you, okay? Stalker types of people, obsessive types of people, people who are intense is basically what it is. Venus in Scorpio is looking for the depths, but for some reason, Venus in Scorpio feels like the more energetically, like this happened energetically behind the scenes, they feel like the more, you know, intense it is, the more, let's say the more the love is pure, for example, or like the more, you know, potent the relationship is. Like, and sometimes if things are too flat, this energy can bring through chaos, especially if they're in their unhealed versions, okay? So they have to transmute this energy. They have to transmute all of this. And also sometimes the energy can be very obsessive toward one person that you're energetically pulling them towards you, okay? But you're interfering with their free will, okay? So it could be like a form of dark magic without realizing that you're doing this. I'm not saying anyone's doing this on purpose or anything of the sort, but it's like because of that obsession energy can be so strong that you can energetically interfere with the other person's free will, okay? And it's like, it's manifestation, right? But it's like, if it's with a person, you can interfere with their free will. Do you know what I mean? This is why even when you have like a vision board or whatever, you don't want to attach a person to it. This is what I was saying about the sexual energy as well, okay? You don't want to attach someone's face to it because then you're interfering with their free will without realizing, okay? And that can just be bad karma, okay? And then it like basically binds you to this earth plane and then you come back again. Hey Laura, how are you doing? You said, did you ask your question again, concerned? You said you had a very challenging job for some reason. In the back of your mind, you thought that you could preserve your sexual energy by refraining from that activity. I'm not sure I fully understand what you're trying to say there. I feel like I do, but then I also don't at the same time. You said, how do you cut a cord with a sexual past partner? You have to like literally clear the energy as much as you can. Maybe you can find a meditation, although even these days I don't trust anything. I don't trust anything even that I find online. Back in the day I would look for meditations and so on and so forth. But it's like these days it's only if I know the person and I trust their vibe with the meditation. But yeah, you can try to sever the tie is really, really what that is. Like in terms of like even visualizing it in your mind, okay? Or calling in whoever you believe in. Do you know what I mean? Because different people like believe in different, let's say God. Some people believe in the archangels, all these things, right? Try to cut it. And then you have to elevate your frequency. That's literally what it is, okay? If you're still thinking of someone, there's still a cord there, basically. And it's an energy siphon. Think about it this way. They're still siphoning your energy if they're still on your mind. Or you're siphoning theirs. Like it could go both ways, right? So again, you could do a meditation. You could just think it in your mind. Like the way that I see it these days is like, you can literally just think it in your mind. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to even call really anybody in or anything, but it depends, right? It depends because different people have different belief systems. You know what I mean? Some people believe in certain archangels, like I mentioned, or God or Jesus or all these things, right? Whoever you need to call in that resonates with you, call them and cut the cord, okay? You can even visualize in your mind like a knife, like cutting it, okay? But you have to be very intentional with it. You can even write it down on a paper, okay? And then burn the paper. And then if you're burning the paper, flush it or, you know, put it in the ground or whatever. So it's this. But it's like, it's all in the mind. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, as long as you think it sometimes, it depends on your frequency. Because sometimes if you're, again, more advanced or higher vibrational or just like more aware, you can just think it and cut it and move on, right? Not like, you know, what's the word? Like romanticize. Because the thing is, a lot of the time what happens, you guys, when something is done and that person's not in your life anymore, what people do, and I don't know if this is like a preservation thing in the mind, but people tend to romanticize, right? Oh, the good times. And that's why people tend to like go back to their partner and then you get back and you're like, actually, no, you're still toxic, you know? So just understand that you can romanticize. Everybody can romanticize in their mind. Yeah, one of you guys said you call God, the creator, source. You said how to have sex without attaching in a negative sense. Is sex really an important part of our lives? This is what I was saying once during my live. And it's so interesting because I'm slowly starting to see more people talking about it. I was saying this, I have to find these things. I need to start writing the dates down, okay? So I can know which live it was. But one of my lives, I was saying, I feel like, in my own opinion, allegedly, the higher up you go in the frequency, the more asexual you become, or like, again, on the asexual spectrums, or like sapiosexual, demisexual, because it's like, the way that I see it, it's like, it's more of an evolved thing, right? Because when people are more in their primal nature, or they're more in their lower chakras, they go more into, again, the lust energies and all these things, right? Because in a way, it's like more primal. I hope that makes sense, right? That's not like lower chakra things. And the way that I see it, like, all of this, okay, in terms of sexual energy is like, it's an energy exchange, right? So it's like, if you're attracted to someone, okay, it's because there's something in their energy fields that is missing in yours. And this is why sometimes when you see couples, they're going to be like, oh, I'm not going to say this word anymore because I don't know how many times they can say it or whatever. But sometimes you're going to be like, oh, our S life died or whatever, dead bedroom or whatever they talk about. But it's like, the way that I see it is like the energy was exchanged and there's nothing else there. When the attraction is done, the sexual energy is exchanged. That's the way that I see it. So it's like you kind of merged to each other. You took on the traits that you needed to take on and it's done. Like, it's really what it is. Like, you know what I mean? And this is why sometimes it depends on the person, because usually people who are, again, not as evolved or not as in tune with themselves, or again, not as developed in terms of their personality, they could be attracted to a lot of people because they're looking for certain traits within those people that's missing within themselves, right? So, okay, with that being said, it's like, if you can incorporate those traits within yourself, you'll see, okay? If you keep going through this energy exchange and you keep like neutralizing the energy within you, I mean, you don't even have to do it through this act, right? You can just actually incorporate the, what's the word? The trait within yourself, right? I hope that makes sense. But the more that you do it, the more that you heal or become more whole. I hope that makes sense. Or integrate, you go higher up in the chakras, right? So at that point in time, the sexual energy, in my opinion, would be used for what it's actually meant to be used for, to achieve higher dimensions. But I don't think a lot of the collective is there yet, okay? Because that's actually, in my opinion, what it's supposed to be used for. It's supposed to be a portal that you're opening to access the higher dimensions. But most people are very unconscious with it, right? So they kind of get stuck in the lower vibrations, because what they do is they open the portal, right? You're opening your auric field, and now entities could be latching onto you, or the other person's entities, right? Or yours toward them. You know, that's what I mean. So you have to be very careful when it comes to sexual energy, because again, if someone's like super into you and they're super trying to come after your energy, they're coming after your energy, okay? There's something in your energy field that's lacking within there. It's like, when I say like someone who's like super like, again, after you energetically, hope that makes sense, okay? I hope you're doing well as well, Laura. Let's see. You said, have you ever burned a photo because you felt like that person was dead to you? It's just unfortunate because you're super obsessive. See, this is the thing. I'm not sure if I actually did that or if it was something that I saw in a movie. Sometimes I don't remember. You said, when I write on my blog, do I find it therapeutic as well? I don't really have a blog. I just write on Threads. At this point in time, I'm just like running my mouth. It's time. Do you know what I mean? The way that I see it is like planting seeds. And it's like, I put it out there, okay? That's the way that I see it. It's like, sometimes you're just like, depends on the person and what they're here to do, okay? The way that I see it is I'm planting seeds energetically because everything that I have ever thought of, people are catching up with now. So at this point in time, whatever I think of, I say it right away, okay? And then you guys will see, it's usually like between 1 to 5 years, okay? People start to catch up with what it is that I am saying. So it's not any of this, okay? It's just like literally just like running my mouth, okay? Because I'm just like, all right, people, like, time to get with the program. Like, enough is enough, okay? Time to see what's actually happening down here, okay? And come into your power, everybody, okay? That's the way that I see it. You said it's your fault. What you're saying is you thought that you could refrain from sexual activity. Oh, okay, yes, I have heard that, yes. Athletes do that sometimes too, okay? Where they refrain from sexual activity to do better in terms of their, you know, whatever they're doing in the athletic world, to have better focus and all these things. Yeah, exactly. My Threads. Yeah, that's that's where I write it all. You said, someone said the other day, he said one of the best ways to release release and process trauma is through writing. Yeah, honestly, it's because it's like you're creating it into the physical, right? You're getting it out of your mind. It's very good to write, you guys, if you guys can journal. And you don't have to put it out there for the world. You can just do it for yourselves, right? It's very healing. Do I believe in twin flames? Okay, so this is another thing that is maybe currently for the collective controversial, but I think the collective will finally get it, okay? Trust me, I found out about twin flames in 2012, okay? Let me tell you guys. Now everyone's jumping on the twin flame train. Twin flames, okay, is an energetic activation within the self. So again, you can become more whole, and so you can come into the balance of the masculine and feminine energy within, okay? You want to be balanced in your masculine and feminine energy within. You do not want to be codependent, okay? That's the way that I see it. The twin flame energy isn't necessarily a person. It could be an activation through a person, okay? But it's not the whole, runner, chaser. Like, I see some of these videos and I'm just like, do these people have no self-respect? They're sitting there and they're waiting and they're like, oh my gosh, this is like looking out their window. Like, please, okay? I wrote about that on my Threads too. So again, if you guys are not ready for like, you know, straightforward types of commentary, don't go on my Threads, okay? But that's what I think twin flames is supposed to be, okay? It's supposed to be an activation of the self. Now, you could be activated through another person, okay? But I don't think it's this whole, you and this person being whole together, okay? I think you're meant to be whole on your own. You can be in a relationship, like a loving relationship, all these things, absolutely. But I don't think it's like you should be looking for this person to complete you, because that can put you into such shady situations, dangerous situations, abusive situations. You know, if you're looking for someone to complete you and you think this is the only person for you. Sometimes people focus so much on one person. They're like, this is the only person for me, that you're having all these people come in front of you and you're not paying attention to those people. But then we have to explore that too. I made a video on here as well if you guys are new here. It's called, Is Romantic Obsession a Trauma Response? Okay, because a lot of the time I find people who are always looking for this one true love and, you know, like waiting, right, for that. I feel like a lot of them are in avoidance sometimes of whatever's going on in the physical plane. There's that aspect to it as well, right? Sometimes it's a trauma response in terms of you know, you didn't get that when you were a kid, right? So it's like, there's so much to say, okay? There's so much to say. But in terms of twin flames, I don't think it's another person. I think a person could activate you, okay? Because it does take a person to activate you, okay? To go into the higher vibration. Sometimes it could be a karmic person. Sometimes it could be someone who's mirroring back to you. But in terms of the whole rhetoric, the way that they have it currently, in terms of this is your only person and everyone's selling the products and trying to siphon your money and trying to siphon your time and your energy, I think that's all too much, okay? That's just my opinion. You said before that we're attracted to energy and not just looks or genetic diversity. Otherwise, we'd be attracted to everyone. Yeah, exactly. This is another thing that I was thinking about too as well, right? Because a lot of the time you'll see people saying that, you know, they're attracted to, you know, only good looking people, for example, but that's not necessarily true. Because you know what I was thinking about too? Even if someone has a type, right? That means that type, you know, that you're into, in terms of like the way they look, you know, even again, have you guys ever heard of face reading, right? The way that you look is also reflective of your personality. So even if you have a type, you're attracted to a certain type of person because there's something within them, right? But people don't like think that deep, right? So it's this, it depends what's going on within you energetically, okay? If you just joined the live, I was just speaking on this maybe like a few minutes ago. You said you ditched a lot in school. So did I. We used to have, I don't know how it was for you guys, but back in the day for me, what they did was, you know, the school would call like the house and say that you skipped a class. So what I would do is I would come home and I would unplug the phone. And then when I went to university, like me and my friend were just like, I just never went to class when I was in university. So there's that. You said really gotta get in the writing and journaling phase. Yeah, exactly. The writing's gonna help you a lot. You said you're not the first person to have said this, but when we talk about your broadcast, it should be, yeah, exactly. It should be taught in primary school. There was a period of time where I was considering teaching yoga in schools, but then all the religious people would have so much to say. Do you know what I mean? So yes, all these things should be taught. If you can just like plant seeds again for people, right? Like again, teaching people about intuition and all these things, they would actually save themselves a lot of time and a lot of grief, okay? Because everything, even if you're ever upset in a situation, it's because you betrayed your intuition. That's the way that I see it, honestly. So the faster you get in tune with your intuition and you start to see what's going on, because like this earth plane is all deception and tricks, okay? And people are always coming at you with the deception and the tricks. So you have to be able to see that is really, really what that is. Most people can't because it's social things like conditioning and society and upbringing and all these things, okay? But this is the thing. You have to learn how to be in your power, live for yourself, live in your truth, right? And that's not easy because, again, it's connected to one of the wounds within the collective, which is being ostracized from the community. But after you overcome that, then you're pretty much set, okay? You said you think when people are primarily attracted on appearance, it's ego. Exactly. You said, and you hold the same quoting / standard on appearance on yourself. That's true too. That's true too. I've noticed that with people. Sometimes with people, if they are like the type of person who's just attracted to appearance, they also don't really have much of a personality either, right? Because they think that their appearance is what's going to attract the other person as well, right? And those types of relationships work for some people, right? And they're in their own category. What's my view on alcohol? I don't drink alcohol. I used to when I was younger, but I don't drink alcohol anymore at all. All substances open you up energetically, okay? And I'm not trying to put fear out there, but it opens you up and then entities can come through. You know how people say like, oh, you know, that wasn't you last night, or you have liquid courage. Like, why can't you do that in your waking life? Why do you need liquid courage? Do you know what I mean? In situations like that, not you, but like people, right? It's like, why can't you just have regular courage? So maybe you have to work on that for yourself. Why do you need the substance, right? So it's this, all these things open you up energetically, and because it opens you up, entities can latch on, and then you'll see a lot of the time people end up in situations that they didn't want to be in. They could have gotten into a fight. Maybe they slept with someone that they didn't want to. Those are all entities, okay? Check out my video where I talk about, it's under my metaphysical playlist. It's called How to Entities Attach or something of that sort. You'll find it in there. He said, maybe this is a hint for someone in their chat who is afraid someone might find their journal. What you do is get an old laptop that is never connected to the internet and an impossible password. Oh, interesting. You said, how can one emotionally regulate oneself who is trauma bonded to a covert narcissist and have to stay with him? Try to see if you can get out. Because the thing is, you can't really emotionally regulate around a covert narcissist, because the thing is, it depends on you. If you're energetically sensitive and you're around this person all the time, you're picking up on all their energy. So you're always in fight or flight. So try to see how you can leave. That'll be the best case scenario. If you can't, you have to like energetically detach. But the thing is, it depends how energetically sensitive you are, okay? But the thing is, like, here's the thing. Even if you are in a situation with a narcissist, this person probably already kind of sense that you're energetically like in tune. Does that make sense? Like, you're probably already more energetically in tune. So it depends how sensitive you are around this person. But like, if you're more energetically open, you're more sensitive energetically, you're more like clairsentient or anything of this sort, it's like, it's going to be really hard because you're around them all the time, right? So the cord is there. You know what I mean? So try to see if you can, if it's possible, how you can get out of that situation in the safest way possible, and seeing like maybe what resources you can get. Otherwise, like detaching. I've heard people talk online about, what is it called? Is it called, it's not stonewalling, something with the word gray scaling, something like that, where you're not, if they're coming at you, you don't engage with them. it's just unfortunate because it's like so much mental gymnastics with a narcissist, because it's like a lot of the time it's like walking on eggshells around them, so you have to make them think that everything is fine so they don't explode, right, with the narcissist. And so there's that whole part of the tactic. It's like so much like tactics that you have to do to like preserve the self, and that's all energetically draining, right? So yeah, so like seeing how you can detach, right? And like if they're coming at you, or if they're angry, or if they're trying to fight with you, not feeding into it is basically what it is. But a lot of the time depends like how narcissistic the person is, because sometimes they keep poking at you until they get a reaction. You know what I mean? So it depends what's going on with them. But yes, good luck in your situation. I'm sending you good vibes. That's the one, Bray Rock method. Okay, that's the one. It was called Bray Rock method. I was like, I knew it was a gray, and then I knew it was a type of rock or stone. You said English is not your first language, and you're also dyslexic in your native language. You said you thought he was a narcissist, but he turned out to, you said you thought he was a narcissist, but turned out he had Sag, Sun, and Venus and Scorpio. Can help him. Hopefully he'll evolve. I remember you asking me the question. Hold on a second. Did you say something up here? I think I told you last live about the Sag Sun. I knew this. Sag Sun, Venus and Scorpio, if they're not evolved and it's a cis-het man, try to exit the situation, okay? If they're not evolved, because that energy, Sag Sun, Venus and Scorpio, looking for power, okay, especially Venus and Scorpio, so possessive over their partners, they want to keep you like all to themselves while they go off and do what they want, okay, with whoever they want. So it's like double standard energy, and it's just like draining. So I would like not entertain that if that's possible. For you, that is. Yeah, honestly, the energy can be very power hungry. Depends what took place in the earlier part of their life. You said Scorpio in the 1st and the 12th house. I don't do numerology for people. Like, I know of it. I'm very like general with numerology. Like very general, like a few sentences, that's it. In my reading, sometimes I touch on it as well if it comes up, but like I just do astrology. I find astrology is way more personalized, if that makes sense. Like it's more accurate. I find that numerology is more generalized. You said sometimes you don't know if an energy is someone else's energy or your own, or just your own wounds. This is why you have to spend the time on your own, in your own energy, okay? To learn yourself, to learn your triggers, to learn your likes, to learn your wants, your desires, all these things. So then you'll know, okay? When it's your energy and when it's somebody else's. Thank you, T. You said you're scared to follow your intuition in relation to your career and future stability, because you know you're going to disappoint so many people, and in your family you might have to change course. And then you said, okay, I get what you're saying. Honestly, all I can say is those are the tests down here on this earth plane, is to try to live in your truth as much as you can, okay? Because you guys have to understand, in my opinion, the truth frequency is higher than the love vibration, okay? Because truth encompasses love, it's authenticity. So the more that you're in your truth and you're living your truth, okay, everything then kind of aligns for you. And sometimes it's like, in a situation like this where it's like you're afraid of the family or what the family's gonna think, or sometimes for people as their partner or whoever, it's like sometimes you're meant to break that cycle because it's probably been traveling in the family for a period of time. Now, obviously you have the free will to do what you want, okay? And like do whatever you want in that situation. But it's this, because it's like at the end of the day, it's you who has to live with yourself, right? And you have to live with yourself long term. And you know, the family's there now, right? And I understand everyone has like the best interest at heart, and everybody wants, you know, things to be, you know, stable for everybody. But it's like, sometimes if you're in a situation, let's say you do have a stable job and you're miserable and you hate that job and you're angry all the time because you didn't listen to your intuition, that's not a good vibration to be in, right? So it's like maybe you have stability, but it might not even be the amount that you could make, right? Even if it was, let's say, part of your purpose to live in this stable job, if you loved it, right? Because there's people who love their jobs, right? And they're in the stability type of vibe, like whatever the job is, and the family, and everyone's happy, right? It's like, because you're in that frequency of like, oh my gosh, I love what I'm doing, you're making more money anyways, right? So it's like, if you don't like what you're doing, the thing is, it's going to affect you. Do you know what I mean? And then later on, obviously I'm not trying to speak this into existence for anybody, but it's like, it can also have health, you know, issues for you. I feel like most people's health issues stem from all these things, okay? Heart versus head, or heart versus, to me, the heart is the intuition and like what the soul wants you to do. And then you have your head, which is logic and sometimes ego, and sometimes what society wants and the family and like all these things. So it's a journey. Like sometimes it's baby steps to get there, but something you might have to overcome, okay? Because a lot of the time I've noticed with people, even if they don't do that, these are the types of people, not you, okay, but sometimes some people who try to appease the family or society or whoever, they kind of have that on the side, and then they're doing whatever they want on the other side, and they go into like double life type of energies, and then they're fragmented, okay? So it's this. You said Venus and Gemini, does that mean you're doomed to be an HOE? I mean, Venus and Gemini like to have fun. They like to date around. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be that. There could be other things in your chart. There could be other things in your chart that could either counteract that or balance that. And I mean, like, even if you like to date around, doesn't mean you have to hook up with everybody. You know what I mean? You said, can an exalted moon in Taurus expect too much attention instead of attracting attention? Interesting. I wonder why you think it's too much attention. You said it's going to be hard, but you've got to be strong. As much as you will cry a lot until you get there. But you guys, thank you for the encouragement. You've been lonely because you live in a city far away from your friends and family. Oh, I'm sending you good vibes and I'm sending you love energy. Try to like find something that you like to do, or like join a club or something, or a dance class or a gym. You know what I mean? Something where you can meet people so you can kind of be doing what you love and meet people at the same time. And sometimes it's just like, the thing is, you guys will see that, again, the people who, again, you know, live their life with no regrets, lived for themselves, right? As long as you're not harming anybody, you know what I mean? Or doing anything shadowy or snaky or all these things, right? That's all you can do at the end of the day. That's all about like coming into your power, into your truth, essentially. Hey, Melinda. How are you doing? Yay, I'm glad that you found me. I'm glad that you're here. Yes, Beatrice, I agree 150% with you. This is exactly what it is. You said, please get out of the relationship safely. You will never regulate your emotions while you're in the relationship. The gaslighting is horrific to your mental health. Exactly. Exactly. Okay? Because this is what I mean. No matter what you try to do, all these methods, okay, is still going to, it's too much work energetically. Like, it's so energetically draining to do all those things, okay, when you'll see when you leave and when you cut this person off, and I'm sending you good vibes, okay? That takes place eventually for you. Again, in the safest way possible, sending you good energy. But you'll see when you're no longer around this person, okay, that will be the best case scenario, okay? That is the only way you will officially fully be able to regulate your system, your nervous system. Because it's like, the thing is, with people who are in a narcissistic energy, whatever it is, covert, overt, or even like if they're not fully narcissistic, or they're in their lower chakras, or they have a lot of anxiety, or they have a lot of fear, or they are just like whatever, right? Like in all of these energies, okay? If you're around them and your energy is open to them, you are absorbing all of their stuff, okay? So you're literally automatically on fight or flight or freeze or fawn or whatever they all are, okay? So yes. Thank you, Laura. I love you guys too. I'm just going back up to see what you guys were saying up here. You said we have to stay authentic to our truth. Exactly, so we can live life with no regrets. Exactly, this is what it means. This is what I mean by the energetic binding, okay, to the earth planes. This is pretty much, in my opinion, the root of everything down here, okay? It's the root of everything. That's why so many people are so like bitter or angry or disassociated. Like when I walk around, just like in like the day to day, and I see people and I'm like, are the people okay? Okay, because most people live life for another person, okay? Again, whether it's for societal expectations, for how they think things should be, maybe they didn't have a chance to, you know, be in tune with themselves. But if you live somewhere where you have the opportunity, it could be rough, right? But sometimes, like, the thing is, you know, people come around, right? Especially if it's like family, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's what's the thing down here. Let's see what else you guys saying out here. I'm just scrolling up. You're welcome. I'm sending you good vibes. Yeah, exactly. Okay, you guys, if you're trying to book a reading, yes, it's supposed to open an email. Oh my goodness. Yes, an email window should pop up when you guys select the reading, okay? And then you send me an email and we'll go from there. And then I'll give you guys the information of how to pay and all of that from there, okay? But that's how you book a reading, essentially. You click book a reading and the email window pops up, and send me an email and then we'll go from there, okay? I would love to read for you guys, okay? I do mini natal chart readings, so that's 20 minutes. Regular natal chart reading, so that's the in-depth one, that one's 45 minutes. Progressed natal chart reading, that one's 1 hour. So in the progressed, I go over the regular natal chart and the progressed version of the chart, and that one is 1 hour. And then I do synastry, which is 45, okay? Synastry is when you look at 2 charts together. I'm sending you guys good vibes. Yes. You said the heart and throat is the most abused. It's all of them. It's literally all of them. It depends on the person, like, to see what their weak point is. Because a lot of the time, even if you're trying to do something down here, you'll see the more you're trying to do what you want to do, the more people will come your way or be sent your way to try to throw you off your path, essentially. So you have to really get in tune. It's like solar plexus chakra building, right? You have to have the trust and the faith in the self. And same thing to the person who was asking about like the job that might not be stable or whatever. It's like you have to sometimes have the trust, right? That it will bring through stability. That's all you can do at the end of the day. One of you guys was saying Venus and Sag gives more of the HOE vibe. Okay, in my opinion, like someone who is like, here's the thing, maybe Venus and Sag, but in my opinion, it's gonna probably be either Mars and Pisces or Mars aspected by Neptune, okay? That's gonna be the energy that sleeps around with everybody. That's just my own opinion, okay? Sag can be like sexual, like hypersexual, like that's there, but if I had to pick, I would say Mars and Pisces or Mars aspected by Neptune, because like Neptune has no boundaries, right? So they're doing everything with everybody. You said Pluto and Libra. Oh yeah, Pluto and Libra, A house with Virgo cusp, A house. So Pluto and Libra is the generation, okay? And then the A house is going to be, Pluto in the A house is a lot of things to clear in your unconscious, like a lot of shadow work. Like that could be a lot of fears, a lot of traumas, like it could even be from previous lifetimes. So there's a lot to clear. Yeah, parent-child. Yeah, absolutely. I've done parent-child before as well. It can be anything. Yeah, synastry is like the energy, how like two people, you know, interact together, like the energy that comes out of any sort of relationship. You can do it for friends. You said, where do I think the next phase of the world is heading energetically and astrologically? You said maybe in a political way, if you're comfortable saying. I mean, I don't do predictions, but we're just going through a breakdown of society, essentially, in my opinion, allegedly. That's what's happening right now. So they're trying to implement like all of their tech stuff, and that's actually what's happening. And I feel like a lot of people think there's a savior, but there is no savior. People have to reject it. So let's see how that goes. Otherwise, like they're gonna try to upload everyone into like computers, and then that's gonna be annoying because then you'll be down here in this realm for life, like for eternity, right? So that's the way that I see it. Like I feel like there's like an energetic opening to not incarnate into this earth plane again is really what that is. The people who are like in the dark energies and like operating everything, they can't really go anywhere else because then like they've been manipulating the energy down here so much, right? So because of Saturn, it's bound by Saturn for everybody, right? So they found some kind of way to operate outside of it or just like manipulate it. It's not so much outside of it. The way that I see it is like they're manipulating it. Like the way that I see it psychically is like they create holes energetically, right? To try to trick the energy, but Saturn is still here, right? So they still have to play out the karma. So that's why they're trying to shove everyone, allegedly in my opinion, into a computer consciousness type of thing. I'm sure you guys have seen that Black Mirror episode. So that's like what they're trying to do, okay? Because they're trying to live forever. Like that's why they're obsessed with immortality, because immortality is satanic, okay? And they're obsessed with being down here in the material and this whole earth plane and just like the shadow masculine energy, like the inverted. Everything's inversion and inversion down here, inverted, okay? So it's this. So the way that I see it is like trying to figure out how to not incarnate, either not incarnate again and try to get as many people to understand this concept, okay? Otherwise, everyone's getting uploaded into the computers. I mean, in one way, shape, or form, it's already happening, right? But they're going to try to like pitch the whole, oh, let me put this, you know, thing into your head, allegedly, in my opinion, have to speak between the lines, right? It's going to be the coolest thing. You can connect with, you know, your great grandma from like whatever, 150 years ago or great grandma. And it's like, just like great grandma, like live in peace. You know what I mean? Or chill in peace. Like, why is this necessary? You know? You said it took you a couple of years to heal your nervous system after leaving covert narcissistic relationship with your mother. You said leaving was not easy, but you could not stay connected to her and be you. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Because it's an energy siphon. That's what narcissists do. They try to hook into your energy field. Okay. So if you can, like, it depends, because in your case, one of your cases was a relationship where you're romantically involved with them, because it's like, think about it this way too, and this is another thing that I was just talking about with somebody the other day. I'm not sure why it's so normalized for couples to sleep together in the same bed always, right? Like, I get it when you guys are going at it, it's like, that part I understand, but it's like, to me, that's another form of energy siphoning when you're sleeping too, right? The person is literally like siphoning your energy, right? And I always thought about it. It's like your whole life when you're a kid, you have your own bed, and it's like now it's like normalized for couples to like always sleep in the same bed together. You know what I mean? Where it's like, again, I get it when you guys are like getting it down and like having a good time, like that part I understand, but it's like, okay, do that and then go sleep in your own beds. But it's like, that's also created by design to siphon energy, okay? Because the energy can be siphoned when you're sleeping too. And like, it doesn't even have to be like in the same bed. Like that's like really siphoning the energy. It can even be in the same household, right? So sometimes, you know, you'll see if you're energetically sensitive when you sleep in certain places, you could absorb the energy, right? Let's say you're sharing with someone or a roommate or whoever. So there's so much to say about everything. Yes, thank you guys for all the likes. You guys are awesome. You said you think so too. Some things are being really disrupted, and you hope nobody repeats history because they are educated enough. I hope so too. I really hope so too. You said if we are born, we also came here to cross out and live the truth. And two, you said also comforting because we get to live life. Exactly. It's all about enjoying and trying to be like in your ultimate truth, not like ultimate truth, but like ultimate joy. You know what I mean? Just like doing what you love, essentially. You said, do people unconsciously siphon energy? Yeah, they do. You said they want the energy to do their own things. Exactly. I talk about that on my threads, okay? You said you've been married for 32 years and you sleep in separate beds. You like to sleep in your own auric field. Exactly. I'm so glad that some of you guys get what I'm saying. I'm so glad, because it's like, just like energetically, it just makes so much sense to me. And yeah. You said, yeah, so a lot of people, here's the thing, I don't think people who are energy vampires are not consciously energy vampires, right? So most of them are unconsciously siphoning energy because something within them, okay, takes place when they're younger where their power gets stripped away from them. And that's why sometimes it's a struggle for empaths, because empaths can see that and then they feel bad for them, but you can't really help someone come into their power. They have to like reclaim their own power for themselves, right? So because they feel powerless, that's like connected to codependency and all these things. They're trying to hook into whoever, okay, is there. It's basically what it is. A lot of that's connected to feminine energy, actually, okay? So a lot of the time, it's connected to the feminine. Depends how in tune you are, either with your own feminine energy or like how comfortable you are getting in tune with it. Because like, again, like I was mentioning even earlier, you have to get in tune, okay, with the energy within, right? Like you want to come into the union within the self. I hope that makes sense, okay? Up until that point, you're always going to be trying to siphon you from that person, like everybody, right? So the healthier relationships is when you're, again, complete on your own. That's kind of what I was getting at earlier as well. I'm glad that you found me too. I do have a video on Pluto in the 8th house. You said, do I think entities can intercept your manifestations? Absolutely. Yes. They also like listen on the astral. Sometimes even if you have a vision board and someone comes in and sees your vision board, they can also try to energetically jinx you, or whether they're aware of it or not. People can literally interfere with their thoughts, you guys, okay? I hate when people say things like, oh, your blessings are your own and like nobody can throw you off your path. No, people can very much throw you off your path, okay? People can, with their thoughts, with their energy, okay? So this is why it's important to not say anything to anybody if you have like a goal or a dream or a manifestation, okay? And even like if you're able to, again, this is a little bit more advanced, so it's kind of hard to explain, but it's like, because on the astral realm, like they can pick up on our thoughts as well, you have to like shield it or cloak it as well, because you'll see the more that you want something, you actually energetically push it away. So it's like, this is why a lot of like the, you know, philosophies try to teach surrender, right? Like just like thinking it and not holding on to it, because if you're holding on to it, that's kind of how they pick up on it, right? They'll send people your way, you know, people will come into your life, and this way you have to heal your wounds, right? Because let's say you are codependent, or let's say you feel bad for people, or let's say you fear being alone, or whatever the wounding is, okay? Let's say you have scarcity. Let's say you, whatever, feel like you can't do things by yourself. You have to do it with another person. I guess that's codependency or fear of being alone, whatever, however it manifests, okay? The entity hooks into that. So it'll send you the person your way, and they'll hook into that, and then they'll distract you and throw you off your path, okay? That's the whole game down here. It's like dodging these energies that are trying to throw you off your path, okay? This is why people keep reincarnating. Down here, something like destiny swapping. I don't think people can fully take your destiny. I just think they can delay it, okay? And I think that's what's connected to the reincarnation loop, okay? I think people can come into your life, cause chaos, because I'm not trying to put fear out there. I don't think they can steal it from you. I don't think they can take it from you, but they can try to change your mind. The mind is so powerful, people don't even understand, right? So they can either try to change your mind or they can interfere like on the astral plane, right? In terms of just sending you energy telepathically, okay? Because we're all telepathic and people don't even know that, right? Or even how to work with that energy, okay? So a lot of the time, these darker people or darker energies come through, they cause chaos or they try to bind you to them, okay? And it's usually connected to maybe some sort of wounding that you have. So you have to really do the exploration, okay? You said, wait, isn't it really about boundaries to not have your energy siphoned? So why do we need to sleep separately if you sleep in the same room but separate beds? You really avoid the energy drain by moving to just room. It depends on the person. Do you know what I mean? If you're both high vibrational people, it's fine. I'm talking more so about people who are energy vampires, right? Or who siphon your energy is really, really what that is. So it's this. You said it's funny how all of the pillars in your chart is yin feminine energy. That makes sense. You said it's also entities operating out of the narcissist. Exactly, siphoning energy. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. I literally have a video on here. I have a few videos. Okay, if you guys are new, check out my metaphysical playlist. I have one called Energy Siphoning and Binding on the Earth Plane. Then I have one about sexual energy siphoning. Then I have one about narcissism from a metaphysical perspective. I have so many in there, you guys. Anything about psychic gifts and abilities. I have one about my perspective on death, okay, and all of that. If you guys, again, are open to those types of videos. And what else? Entities, how entities attach, all of this, okay? Because the name of the game is you want to come out of the lower chakras and go into your higher chakras, but you have to heal the wounding, okay? And the wounding could be your own, it could be generational, and then you internalize it as your own, for example. It could be from a past life. Usually past life, though, is like if you can't find the reason for it in this lifetime, okay? So it's this. Oh, thank you so much. Okay, guys. Okay, if you guys want your own natal chart reading, mini natal chart reading, synastry reading, progress natal chart reading, send me an email and we will go from there. Thank you for being a part of the live, for being a part of the channel. Yes, it's called the Metaphysical Playlist. Check it out. Thank you for your likes, for your shares, for your subscribes, and I hope you all have a beautiful day or evening wherever you are. Bye.